The Emperor of Work begins with Conan. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276 Uhurai. This script is wrong. Being wrapped up means that Toru Amuro used his suit jacket to wrap his head. There was no other way, because his golden hair was too conspicuous. The skin color and hair color that were very different from those of normal Japanese people made Toru Amuro passively become the most handsome guy in the crowd. It was hard to say anything else. If Toru Amuro was seen today, the obvious characteristics would definitely allow the police to find him in the first place. Toru Amuro was not sure whether this accident was an accident or not. Toyama Tobi was a psychopath who could not be judged by common sense. No matter what he did, he could not surprise Toru Amuro. Whether Toru Amuro was surprised or not, AI Habura was surprised enough. Because the fear that belonged to the organization that had just grabbed her heart fiercely not long ago was gradually reduced at this moment. The humanoid organization radar showed that the organization Kada just now was leaving the building at a high speed after killing the counterfeit money leader and her accomplices. AI Habura finally stopped shaking involuntarily, but this performance was undoubtedly too dangerous in the eyes of the white giveaway group, and Conan and their new classmate was so frightened that he was like this. Conan was very thankful for this. After such an experience, his new classmate who seemed a little cold would not join the junior detective team again, right? 3 burdens were enough. Conan didn't dare to think about how colorful his life would be if he had another burden. The 3 little ghosts of the freebie group were a little disappointed, except for Yoshida Ayumi, who really came to make friends with the new classmates out of kindness. The remaining 2 were basically just lusting after the beauty. Koja Magenta was the kind of person who was interested but not completely, because if Habura and Eel Rice were put together, Koja Magenta would definitely choose Eel Rice instead of Habura. But Tsuburaya Mitsuhiko was different. If Habura and Yoshida Ayumi were put together, he would probably choose both of them. In fact, he did so later. It's just that he didn't think about it at all. Although he wanted to choose both, it was still a question whether they were willing to choose him. The 3 first-year Little Bean Buns were disappointed because they also thought that after this incident, it would be difficult to pull Habura into their team. Although the beige trio had no brains when facing the incident, they still had some intelligence at ordinary times. They also knew clearly that not everyone was as keen on this thrilling detective activity as they were. The only one who could laugh out loud at the scene was probably the elementary school student who commissioned the suicide group to help him find his brother. The 2 brothers did not cry about this job, but the joy of reuniting their relatives made them overjoyed for a while. The police from the police station arrived soon. After they came to the 3rd floor and saw the scene, they knew that this incident was not something they could handle. Inspector Medria, who has the highest attendance rate in the Conan world, came again with his men. After asking people to collect the bodies and handcuff the surviving members of the counterfeit money gang, Officer Meggio began to ask the elementary school students what happened at the scene. Without any surprise, the suicide group played a considerable role in this incident. Officer Meggio has always been a headache for these elementary school students. Even if other people's children are naughty, at most they will use stones to smash the glass or scratch other people's car paint with something. Although this kind of child is very bare, there is no way to deal with it. If you really want to deal with them, just punish their guardians. They are just a bunch of naughty kids. There is always a way to punish them. But this group of kids who are looking for death are different. You say they are naughty and mischievous. These kids have good intentions at first, but they are a little overconfident in the process of practice. Of course, it is useless to have good intentions, otherwise there would be no such thing as good intentions but bad results. But if you let these kids go, they have already been involved in gun-related incidents. Officer Meggio doesn't even dare to think about what kind of incidents they will be involved in the future if they are allowed to develop and expand themselves. Before launching a military coup, I will worship you guys and treat you as mascots for a smooth operation. It was late today, and Officer Meggio could only give a verbal education to the elementary school students, and then have them sent back. Coincidentally, the officer responsible for sending them home was Takagi. Conan's words always had weight to Takagi, so Conan considerately said that he didn't need Officer Takagi to send them home. Just let him send the white giveaway group back. As for the new classmate who looked very cold, Conan looked at the corner of himself that was tightly held and had a headache. Well, since you don't want Officer Takagi to take you back, I'll take you back, okay? At least you have to tell me where you live. 222, Bikacho, Tokyo. 222, Bikacho. Isn't that across from my house? Conan suddenly realized that he almost let it slip halfway through his words and deliberately blurred the word I. Yes, that's across from your house. To be specific, it should be the home of Dr. Agasa who watched you grow up. Heiberei let go of the hand that was holding Conan's clothes and calmly said something that made Conan shudder. Wait a minute. Conan always felt that this plot was so damn familiar, and the next sentence of this little girl was, "Nice to meet you, Kudoshinichi-san." The autumn wind blew bleakly on the street, and the fallen leaves on the ground passively changed their positions in groups of 3 or 2. Conan, who should have been terrified, was not only calm at this moment, but he even had the mind to look up and down at the new classmate in front of him who said something shocking. There was no way Conan didn't want to be like this, but who told him that so many people had discovered his identity during this period? Not to mention Toyama Tobi and Hattori Hiji. Even Zyalin almost discovered her identity under the guidance of a certain wicked master. Thanks to his mother's temporary guarantee of his safety by giving up her reputation, the price was that after this series of stimulations, Conan's threshold for his identity being discovered was infinitely increased. In the eyes of Heiberei, Conan was calm now. Not only did he not react to what she said, but he also looked at her so unscrupulously. Could this high school student in Beaker Town be a copper-smelting pervert? In just a short encounter, Conan didn't know that his reputation had begun to be damaged. Seeing that Conan didn't react, Heiberei was ready to give Conan some ruthless medicine. APTX 4869. This is the name of the medicine you took. Don't look at me like that. You should know it well, right? The poison that turns you into an elementary school student after taking it was developed by me. Also, aren't you curious about why I know that 2-22 Bikacho is Dr. Agasa's home? Chapter 277. I said I chopped all the way from Tokyo to Osaka, and you ask me if my eyes were dry? Did you make that medicine? Then can you make an antidote? It doesn't matter whether you pretend to be a primary school student or not. Even if you deny, act stupid, or act cute, it's just the last dying struggle. She has such comprehensive information, and she just needs to tell about the blow. Does Conan still need to doubt the authenticity of Heiberei's information? On the contrary, Conan is in a state of urgency now. If there is an antidote that can completely end this shrinking incident, then the new classmate in front of him named Heiberei is his savior, Kudoshinichi. And what was Heiberei's last question just now? Forget it, it doesn't matter. It's important to change back first. Facing Conan's expectant eyes, Heiberei was not only speechless, she even wondered if drug A had any side effects that she didn't know about. I'm telling you that I chopped all the way from Tokyo to Osaka without blinking an eye, and you ask me if my eyes were dry? Is there something wrong with the focus of you mature people on the problem? And if the doctor knew that you completely ignored Dr. Agasa, how sad he would be. This is the extent of raising an ungrateful person. Heiberei didn't know how to respond to Conan's earnest expectations, but she chose to tell the truth. APTX 4869 is a drug that is still under development. Strictly speaking, your shrinkage is a very rare incident. Because the development of the drug has not yet returned, there will naturally be no reverse engineering drug for APTX 4869. That is what you call the antidote. Although he had long known from Toyama Tobi that drug A had no antidote, Conan could not help but feel disappointed when the drug developer in front of him said that drug A had no antidote. Conan unconsciously revealed a look of "you are really useless," but Heiberei accurately captured it. Heiberei clearly felt that Conan must not have said anything good about her at this moment, and her eyes turned into dead fish eyes. After learning that there was no antidote, Conan's waist was no longer sore, and his legs were no longer painful. His smart brain returned to the high ground of IQ. Only then did he realize the last question that Haber AI had asked at that time. That is, why did she know that Tochome 22 was the home of Dr. Agasa? Toyama Tobi told her. As soon as this thought arose in Conan's mind, he ruthlessly crushed it. It was impossible. Absolutely impossible. Although what Haber AI said and did now seemed very similar to what Toyama Tobi could do, not only Toyama Tobi, but also his unreliable parents always took playing with their children for fun. But unlike Haber AI in front of him, if Toyama and his parents were to do this and set up this situation, they would definitely not let him have so much initiative. In other words, their work would not be done so roughly. Yes, Conan has seen through Haber AI's flaws. No matter what the identity of this little girl is, or what her purpose is, Conan has grown up after being trapped by Toyama Tobi and his parents many times. Do you want to scare him with such a flawed statement? Ha. Our great Dr. Agasa is blessed by God. How can you villains like you secretly harm him? Conan blinked and asked Haber AI. Next, you will not tell me that the people from the organization are now in the doctor's house and have killed the doctor to silence him. Since you know this, why are you so calm? Haber AI raised her eyebrows. She was panicking because her opponent did not follow her script at all. Obviously, Conan should be extremely panicked and at a loss. Why does he look so calm now? Is he directly ignoring the life and death of the doctor? Haber AI felt that Kudo Shinichi was really a piece of shit, so she changed her fighting style. Since Dr. Agasa's safety cannot shake you, can you be so calm when facing your own life and death? Since you already know, I might as well tell you straight. Dr. Agasa died because of you. But don't feel guilty, because you will be able to go down and accompany him soon. Of course, as a survivor and an occasional case of APTX 4869, if you can cooperate with the organization to continue to improve this drug, you may not be unable to survive. Although you are only living as a guinea pig, believe me, you will be a very precious guinea pig. After all, you are the only material for the experiment, and you will never die too hastily. Conan heard this and reminded Uhura AI weakly that Uhura classmate, according to the current situation, you should also be a survivor of this drug. Do you count yourself in this guinea pig statement? I'm the developer of the drug, why should I count myself? But the developer of the drug should not easily take this poison that represents death, right? Conan meant something. Conan did get a lot of great information from Toyama Tobi, such as the fact that drug A is used as a poison in the organization. Since Uhura AI is the developer of the drug, under normal circumstances, there is no need for her to take poison. Now the other party appears in front of him as an elementary school student. Does this mean that Haber AI's original situation in the organization was not very good? She has taken poison. If you say she is doing well, someone has to believe it. What's more, Conan's eyes gradually became kind, or perhaps it should be full of care for special groups. As far as I know, if the organization really finds out my identity, I'm afraid someone will run to the school to arrest me as soon as possible. Then everyone around me who has a relationship with me, Uncle Maori, Xiaolan, Dr. Agasa, and even my classmates will be monitored for a long time. But the only thing the organization won't do is to send an elementary school student like you and then take a day of classes in school as if playing house. By the way, there is also a thrilling extracurricular activity. The members of the organization probably won't be like you, just trembling like a Parkinson's patient when facing the counterfeit money dealer on the scene. Conan even began to doubt Haber AI's identity as he spoke. Are there really such members in the organization? Just looking at the status of Gin and Toyama Tobi, Conan thought that the organization was full of such devils who kill without blinking an eye and psychopaths like Toyama Tobi. After listening to all that Conan said, Haber AI had only one thought. Was she rejected by a high school student? She, a genius scientist who returned from studying in the United States, was actually rejected. Rejected by a high school student. What do you know? Haber AI suddenly exploded and then pulled Conan to the doctor's house. Conan staggered behind Haber AI, and he was sure in his heart that women were indeed troublesome. After entering Dr. Agasa's house, Haber AI stood at the door and gasped to calm her intense breathing due to excitement. Chapter 278 Little Rabbit, open the door. After her emotions gradually stabilized, Haber AI finally looked at Conan. If she had a choice, Haber AI would rather look at someone else. But there was nothing she could do. Currently, the only known guinea pigs who survived after taking drug A were the two of them. Haber AI had to look at Conan now. Do you know what you did rashly today? When the elementary school student in the next class said that his brother's work was appreciated by a woman dressed in black, did you also consider that the woman was from the organization? Don't try to deny it. I saw that something was wrong with you at the time. You, a guy, actually got excited when you heard that the woman was suspected to be from the organization? Do you understand the seriousness of the problem? After Dr. Agasa's side description a few days ago, plus today's personal observation, Haber AI felt that this high school student who shared the same suffering as herself was simply a complex of contradictions. You said that he didn't know how powerful the organization was. It didn't seem to be the case. This guy was willing to be an ordinary elementary school student under an assumed name, and even liked to move to his childhood sweetheart's house. Well, moving is probably related to Conan's reserved and sultry personality, but it can be seen that Conan is indeed deliberately hiding his identity on weekdays. In addition, when there is no case, Conan looks no different from an elementary school student, at best, the kind of elementary school student who is a little precocious. There are such elementary school students. Originally, when an AI thought that Conan was just hiding his identity to avoid the search of the organization, today's personal experience opened her eyes. When Conan heard that there was an incident, he didn't learn 1 plus 1, and he didn't pretend to be an elementary school student. He showed his cards directly and started reasoning in front of a group of people. Fortunately, the thing of rejuvenation doesn't sound very scientific, and other people only regard Conan as a precocious child. Otherwise, such a performance would really fall into the eyes of those who are interested. Conan actually seems to be no different from self-exposure. Here you can refer to the process of Hattori Hiji discovering Conan's identity. Hearing this, Conan felt that he could quibble a little, but it can't be said that it was like quibbling. It should be based on his own reasoning to review the counterfeit money gang incident. I admit that maybe I'm a little sensitive to people wearing all black, but it is also a fact that your organization likes to wear all black, right? Let's talk about the counterfeit money gang again. Based on my understanding of your organization, such small counterfeit money should not be in your eyes. Even if you want to make counterfeit money, I guess your organization should choose to make US dollars instead of Japanese yen, or even Japanese yen with a denomination of 1000 yuan. And when Conan said this, he looked at an AI speechlessly. At the beginning, I didn't plan to take risks to deal with this counterfeit money gang myself. I originally planned to call the police, and I also have reliable channels to let the police officers of the Metropolitan Police Department come to the scene to catch this gang in one fell swoop. It was the elementary school students you brought who acted on their own initiative, and a group of people ran to the base of the counterfeit money gang to make trouble. I don't think I can be blamed alone for the danger I encountered today. To be honest, Conan is full of complaints about the White Give group. No one is born to like to be a babysitter who cleans up other people's asses. Not to mention Conan. Let's not talk about the distant past, just talk about how many times he has encountered danger since he met the White Give group. Although Conan can always turn danger into safety and turn disaster into blessing with his quick wit and the equipment given by Dr. Agasa, it does not mean that Conan is a masochist and likes weight training. Today, he had already sent that group of kids away, but who would have thought that Haber AI would bring them back with just one sentence? When Conan said this, Haber AI fell silent. She didn't expect that this group of naughty kids could be so naughty. She didn't think that this group of counterfeit money dealers would be related to the organization. She didn't expect that this group of kids would actually dare to brave the world as a group. The White Give group taught Haber AI a good lesson today. Some people, you can't think of them with normal thinking. Okay, I admit that my behavior today was a little inconsiderate. AI Hura, adhering to the principle of admitting mistakes, admitted her mistakes. But did you know that there were at least 2 cadres of the organization in that building today? cadres of the organization. How did you know? Conan was shocked. He remembered that Uhura was just trembling at the scene. Did he already find the cadres of the organization at that time? But Conan came in through the fire escape of the building, and when he came in, he knocked down a member of the counterfeit money gang with an anesthetic needle. What cadres of the organization? He didn't find them at all. Or was it that the members of the organization were 2 floors downstairs, or on the rooftop of the building at that time? Then the question is, how did Uhura find the members of the organization? Conan has always been very confident in his observation skills. If a detective does not have good enough observation skills, he will not be a famous detective. If you can't even find clues and evidence at a murder scene, no matter how strong your reasoning ability is, it's hard for a good cook to cook without rice. He knew nothing about the so-called organization cadres, but Uhura was so confident. So is this Uhura from the organization really that strong? It's a feeling. I have a strong intuition about all the members of the organization. If they get close to me. Uhura hesitated for a while and still said her unscientific basis. Whether Conan believes it or not, Uhura believes in her intuition very much. One's life should be in one's own hands. Regardless of whether others believe it or not, Uhura firmly believes that her intuition will not be wrong. Relying on intuition, Conan didn't know whether he should believe Uhura or not for a while. Since he was knocked on the door and turned into an elementary school student, he also had an intuition against the members of the organization. His intuition chose the guy Toyama Tobi when he first appeared, and later proved that Conan's intuition was not wrong. Uhura's intuition is just a little more metaphysical than his. It seems that it is not impossible to believe it, but this intuition without even a little scientific basis also makes Conan a little embarrassed. Let's not talk about the guy who escaped after silencing the counterfeit money base. His identity has not been confirmed for the time being. Conan needs at least one example to prove that Uhura's intuition is correct. Although Conan doesn't know why the topic between the two of them suddenly turned to this, he suddenly thought of Toyama Tobi. Wouldn't it be a good idea to find Toyama Tobi and let Uhura take a look at him, so as to prove whether Uhura's organization radar is effective or not? Just when Conan was about to secretly contact Toyama Tobi, there was a sudden rhythmic knock on the door of Dr. Agasa's house. Doctor, are you home? I'm here to have a midnight snack with you. Chapter 279. Shirley. Recently, Dr. Agasa has been addicted to online chatting. It should be said that the doctor is indeed a very fashionable person. He did hear the sound of Uhura and Conan entering the room, but when he vaguely heard that the two of them were communicating happily, he gave up the idea of going out. Let the young people solve the problems of the young people. It is not good for an old man like him to get involved. But when the doctor heard Toyama Tobi standing outside the door and calling him for supper, he stood up and walked towards the door in high spirits. If Maulilin is a rice flour succubus targeting Conan's female characters, Toyama Tobi is a cup succubus targeting certain specific male NPCs. Toyama Tobi can get along well in the Metropolitan Police Department because of the characteristics of Officer Sato, but he can get along well with Dr. Agasa on the one hand because the two have similar diets. On the other hand, it is the ability given to him by Officer Takagi and Mirai TG. Takagi's good-natured characteristics can make some positive characters subtly improve their favorability towards Toyama. The characteristics of TG Mirai endowed Toyama Tobi with the characteristics of a scholar, plus the knowledge of architecture. The Mirai School of Architecture emphasizes blasting first. Toyama Tobi may not be so profound in terms of how to build and design buildings later, but Toyama Tobi is very proficient in how to blow a building directly into ruins. In addition, the Mirai School's unusual utilization of bombs and explosives complements the Doctor, a genius in popcorn blasting. It is only natural that the two of them are getting more and more in tune with each other. Dr. Agasa is equivalent to an arms manufacturer, and Toyama Tobi is an excellent end user. If these two really work together one day, the picture will be so beautiful that you can't even imagine it. Just blow it up. It won't be over until the whole Tokyo is blown up. Dr. Agasa was naturally overjoyed to hear that brother Toyama, whom he hadn't seen for a while, came to see him. He hurriedly left the studio and trotted to the door at a pace that Conan had never seen before. At the entrance, Haber had already started to shiver on time, which made Conan realize that Haber's organization radar was not groundless. Her intuition was really accurate. Because before Toyama Tobi had spoken, Haber had already started to tremble. Conan had 3 question marks on his head. Is it really so mysterious? Just when Dr. Agasa was about to open the door, Haber finally overcame her fear and shouted to Dr. Agasa, "Doctor, don't open the door." Unfortunately, it was too late. When Haber shouted this, Dr. Agasa just opened the door nimbly, revealing Toyama Tobi, who was carrying 2 bags of midnight snacks that didn't look very healthy. The moment the door opened, Toyama Tobi and Haber looked at each other. When Toyama Tobi handed the midnight snack in his hand to Dr. Agasa, who didn't know what was going on, he changed his shoes at the entrance, then slowly walked to Haber and squatted down. A surely Jin's aria evoked Haber's unbearable memories, and the sudden fear of the organization's aura on Toyama Tobi subsided a little. There was no way that, if Jin said this, Haber would be scared to death. But the last time Toyama Tobi said this, Haber only thought it was funny. Now Haber herself didn't know whether she should feel funny or scared. Facing the rare member of the SYNOPSIS organization who showed some goodwill to her, Haber was a little confused for a while. According to convention, Haber felt that she should still pretend to be stupid, just like Conan, who was discovered at the beginning and was stubborn. "Big brother, what are you talking about? Kudo Shinichi, Miya no Shaho." Toyama Tobi pointed at Conan next to Haber and then pointed at Haber. Identifying the identities of 2 elementary school students is not difficult for Toyama Tobi. Putting aside the advantages of the plot, since Toyama Tobi already knew that Conan was Kudo Shinichi, with such a case, he would naturally know what was going on with Haber. Haber was at least an 18-year-old genius scientist, and she knew what was going on as soon as Toyama Tobi said it. "So it was you who led the Imperial Army here?" Exclamation mark. Haber looked at Conan with a squint. She thought Conan was so powerful because of what he said just now. After all this time, he was the first one to be discovered? "You stepped into the trap. What are you so proud of just now?" Exclamation mark. At this time, Conan was also a little embarrassed, with a sense of embarrassment of pretending to be cool, but being exposed. So Conan decided to change the subject. "SYNOPSIS, Toyama, when did you get your own code name in the organization? Have you been promoted to a cadre?" Toyama Tobi didn't pay attention to Conan and Haber who were following him. He followed Dr. Agasa into the restaurant with midnight snacks. After arranging the chopsticks and plates, he poured a glass of beer and drank it happily. "Of course, a talent like me who shines even in the crowd. How could the organization let me be an ordinary member forever? My promotion only shows that the organization has a good vision." Toyama Tobi took out a piece of soft-boiled radish and ate it without raising his head. On the other side, Dr. Agasa has a special liking for all kinds of fried food on the table. Toyama Tobi looked at the doctor pitifully. With a housekeeper like Haber at home, the doctor's future life will be much more difficult. Of course, a light diet is indeed good for the doctor's health. In this fucked up world of childhood sweethearts, there is still a sunset romance waiting for the doctor to talk about. After learning that Toyama Tobi was promoted, Conan's mind was completely active. At the dinner table, Conan kept asking Toyama Tobi about the organization's information. In the face of these indirect questions, Toyama Tobi laughed and blurred the questions one by one. In the end, Toyama Tobi even confronted Conan. "Little boy, don't waste your energy. You don't have what I need now. If you want to get information about the organization from me, you'd better save it. You should know that many things are useless, even if you have money." Conan was very frustrated, but he had no choice. Just like Toyama Tobi said, he really had nothing to give Toyama Tobi except money. Even this money was not his own. Conan had no way to deal with Toyama Tobi. Conan couldn't ask his parents for help, because dealing with Toyama Tobi was also a part of Kudo Yusaku's training for Conan. It can be said that, if Conan can deal with Toyama Tobi, who has no desire for him, then he can really deal with most people in the world. Although Conan has evolved, he obviously hasn't evolved that fast, so Conan can only set his sights on Habura AI. He just heard Toyama Tobi call Habura AI Sherry. She is also a cadre of the organization. After all, she is a cadre of the organization. She can't be ignorant of all the information, right? I'm sorry to disappoint you. After listening for a long time, Habura AI found that Toyama Tobi didn't seem to want to capture her. Now she has adapted to the strong aura of the organization on Toyama Tobi. Facing Conan's expectant eyes, Habura AI also understood Conan's thoughts in seconds. Then she decisively shattered Conan's hope. Chapter 280. I'm so sorry for bringing shame to this organization. Don't look at me like that. Do you know what my nickname is in the organization? AI Huhara rolled her eyes and gave Conan a big eye roll. What is it? The shame of the organization's cadres. AI Huhara said this mocking nickname calmly and gave Conan a heavy blow. There are only wrong names, not wrong nicknames. When Conan heard AI Huhara mocking her own code name, he subconsciously looked at Toyama Tobi, as if to verify it. Toyama Tobi nodded affirmatively. She is right. Her nickname in the organization is really this. To be honest, I still can't understand how a cadre with a drinking reputation can get to this point. The worst cadre I know in the organization can at least get the mascot of the organization. It's really not easy to get to this point. Toyama Tobi was talking about Rina Mizunashi. When Rum decided that the organization would enter a dormant period, the most anxious people should be Rina Mizunashi and Amuro Toru, who were undercover agents who were not trusted by the core of the organization. No one in the organization will tell them what happened. At most, Rum will tell them to keep a low profile. They can ignore Rum's words, but Rum will trust them less and less. The chance of getting into the core of the organization is getting slimmer and slimmer. It is equivalent to their undercover mission being declared a failure. Intelligence agencies spend a lot of manpower and material resources to send their agents to the organization. If the operation fails because of this kind of thing, there is no doubt that the agent in charge of the operation will be the one to take the blame in the end. As for the superiors of the agents, it is probably just 3 glasses of wine. So Rum asked them to keep a low profile, and they can only choose to keep a low profile, but at the same time they need to try their best to figure out why they should keep a low profile. Now that Toru Amuro has Toyama Tobi as a partner, he can know the main reason why the organization entered a dormant period. In the face of Rum's order, Toru Amuro can take the opportunity to show himself. Look, Lord Rum, I'm really your loyal bourbon. As for Rina Mizunashi, Toyama Tobi has received several invitations from Rina Mizunashi to meet him. There is no other way. The only way for Rina Mizunashi, the mascot of the organization, to get in touch with the core of the organization is through Toyama Tobi. This is a naked seller's market. With Rum's golden assistance, Toyama Tobi firmly holds the initiative in the negotiations with the CIA. He is not in a hurry to meet Rina Mizunashi. He is waiting for the price. At least he has to let people feel the popularity of the intelligence in his hands before he can make an offer, right? Conan couldn't help laughing at the miserable situation of AI Habura. In his impression, the members of the organization are really high class. Gin and vodka are not to be mentioned. They don't look like good people at all. Wearing black clothes and sunglasses at night, they are not afraid of driving into the wall. As for Toyama Tobi, although Toyama Tobi is a mentally ill person, mental illness is not a minus point among criminals, but a full plus point. In this business, if you have the attribute of bad mental health, there is no simple stuff. Originally, there were losers like Miyano Akemi in the organization to relieve Conan's pressure. But in this world, because of the participation of Toyama Tobi, Conan has never seen Miyano Akemi. His various impressions of the organization basically all come from Toyama Tobi and Gin. Now there is Habura AI to refresh Conan's understanding of the organization's cadres. Although he knows that laughing out loud is not good, Conan really can't help it. I was professionally trained in Hawaii, and I usually don't laugh out loud unless I can't help it. Facing Conan's sense of superiority that came from nowhere, Toyama Tobi began to undermine him without hesitation. This Kudo Shinichi, I think you also have a certain understanding. After all, the final confirmation of Kudo Shinichi's survival status was still the 2 of us who went together. Toyama Tobi just mentioned, you may know that it was Jin who was responsible for killing Kudo Shinichi, but you must not know how Kudo Shinichi, a high school detective, was targeted by Jin. In fact, when Habura AI was still in the organization, she was a little puzzled. A character like Kudo Shinichi was basically out of place in the organization's list. The list of people who use drug A in the organization includes either the leaders of large groups or some regional politicians, or some underground figures who are not good at seeing the light. On the contrary, Kudo Shinichi, a high school detective, really doesn't deserve to be on the list. Even if the organization really wants to kill such a high school student, it shouldn't even be done by Jin. Now, according to what Toyama Tobi said, is there another reason why Conan was targeted by Jin? Conan's face changed drastically, and he stood up immediately to stop Toyama Tobi from revealing his past. But Conan's words were not taken seriously. He was a person of little influence in the real sense. Conan, who jumped up and didn't even reach the upper half of Toyama Tobi's body, couldn't stop Toyama Tobi at all. It would only make Habura AI more curious about Conan's past. Habura AI adjusted her sitting posture and politely signaled Toyama Tobi that she could start her performance. It was a sunny weekend. Jin and Vodka came to the Roboca Park together to ride the most famous roller coaster there. Just after hearing the beginning, Habura AI's expression began to collapse. What the hell did she hear? Exclamation mark. Gin and Vodka met at the Roboca Park and rode a roller coaster? Exclamation mark. Habura AI thought that Toyama Tobi was playing a trick on her, but after seeing Conan's expression of being as quiet as a chicken without any rebuttal, she felt that her three views were strongly conflicted at this moment. She is not the kind of woman who swears at heaven and earth, not to mention that the CP between Gin and Vodka is not strong at all, and it is even a bit spicy. She would rather swear at Chianti and Cohen's CP than swear at Gin and Vodka's CP. But the fact is that Gin and Vodka really went to the Roboca Park that day, and the two of them did experience the roller coaster that is extremely popular among young people together. To this day, Toyama Tobi still doesn't know why Gin and Vodka took the roller coaster that day, but it doesn't prevent Toyama Tobi from speaking the truth and giving Habura AI a little shock. In such an organization with many comedians, Habura AI could be scared like this. I can only say that noobs need to practice more. After Gin and Vodka took the roller coaster for unknown purposes, Toyama Tobi talked about the club that Conan took with great concentration. After listening, Habura AI looked at Conan expressionlessly and then outlined a malicious smile. You, little guy, just now I saw that you talked very well, as if you know a lot about the organization. After all this time, you are just a little scoundrel who was hit by a club by Jin. For a while, the relationship between Habura AI and Conan began to gradually become strange. Is this probably the mutual dislike between the same kind? Chapter 281 Watering the Seeds of Hope with Evil. The development of the situation was obviously beyond Toyama Tobi's expectations. Habura AI, who was supposed to seek warmth from Conan, began to dislike the great detective because of his intervention. How should I put it? It's quite interesting. Toyama Tobi is obviously happy to see the current attitude of the two. What's the point of the red team gathering around Conan in harmony? It has to be like this. Even if they don't beat each other's brains out, at least they have to be disgusted with each other and cooperate with each other with a pinch of nose. Of course, it is not realistic to expect Conan to be disgusted with Habura AI. After all, Habura AI is a ruthless person who can develop drug A. Conan's hope of becoming big is all pinned on Habura AI. Although Conan has limited emotional intelligence, he will not show a disdain to a big man who masters core technology. It's okay if Habura AI can't develop an antidote in this life, but if she develops it, but doesn't tell Conan, he doesn't know how uncomfortable it will be. As for why Conan didn't show Habura AI his true face right away like in the original work, Toyama Tobi believes that it is because Conan in this world knows more about the organization than in the original work. In the original work, Conan's understanding of the organization at this time was limited to the two code names of Gin and Vodka. At best, with the 3 or 2 words that Miya no Akemi said before her death, ignorance will naturally produce useless impatience. Showing Habura AI a true face is also a manifestation of her maturity. In this world, Conan's maturity is all learned by Toyama Tobi and Kyudo-Yu's social beatings. The more people know, the more mature they are, and the more mature they are, the stronger their control over emotions. In addition, Conan's initial impression of Haber-Ai's uselessness, and he was not shocked by Dr. Agasa's loss of contact. It is reasonable that he did not show a true face. After visiting Haber-Ai's first appearance, Toyama Tobi's psychology of eating melons was greatly satisfied. After eating and drinking, Toyama Tobi got up and said goodbye. Just as Toyama Tobi walked out of Dr. Agasa's house, he found that Haber-Ai followed him. "Do you want to talk to me?" Toyama Tobi stopped and looked down at Haber-Ai. Haber-Ai nodded, hesitated for a moment, and then mustered up the courage to ask Toyama Tobi, "Aren't you going to take me away?" Toyama Tobi looked at Haber-Ai, who was not even as tall as his thigh, with a black question mark expression. "Where are you going to take you?" "Take me back to the organization. The organization must be going crazy looking for me now." Haber-Ai said the most difficult sentence, and she felt relieved at this moment. The reason why she chased out to ask this was not because she had a tendency to be masochistic, but mainly because Toyama Tobi's appearance was like a guillotine hanging in the air for her. If there was no definite answer, the guillotine might fall at any time. The feeling of being on edge was completely different from the feeling of being on edge all the time. Haber-Ai would rather let Toyama Tobi give her a quick blow than to continue to suffer. From the original work, it can be seen that Haber-Ai has a certain tendency to self-destruct. In the final analysis, it is because the black organization is so powerful that she cannot resist. To be honest, Haber-Ai's behavior is normal. If Conan and Haber-Ai live in the same growing environment, he may not be able to behave the same as in the anime. In fact, although Detective Conan has been serialized for more than 20 years, Conan has never seen the full picture of the black organization. More importantly, unlike Haber-Ai's biological sister who died at the hands of the organization, the people around Conan have not been really hurt by the black organization to this day. So even though Miyano Akima's status is missing rather than dead, Haber-Ai still ran to Toyama Tobi and tried to show her cards. There is no reason why she wants to trade with Toyama Tobi. The content of the deal is very simple. Toyama Tobi captures her and sends her back to the organization to be rewarded for meritorious service so that her position in the organization can be further improved. In exchange, if Toyama Tobi gets information about Miyano Akimi in the future, Haber-Ai hopes that Toyama Tobi will let her sister go. Although she is a disgrace to the cadres of the black organization, Haber-Ai still knows Toyama Tobi's ability. AI Haber sneered at Conan's blind optimism. "Do you really think that you will be absolutely safe if Spiritus talks and laughs with you now? Do you know what it means to be mentally ill and change your face faster than turning the pages of a book?" After learning about AI Haber's emotions and thoughts at the moment, Toyama Tobi sneered. "You are a cadre of the organization after all. Tell me what I can get if I capture you now? The trust of Gin and Rum? A higher status? Or something else?" AI Haber frowned and thought for a long time and gave several possibilities. "Then you say Gin and Rum don't trust me enough. I have now obtained a code name and some of my subordinates have guns. If I want to improve my status, I have to consider whether I have to kill Gin or Rum. But I don't want to work overtime like Gin, and I don't want to be the second in command of this organization, so my current status is just right for me. As for other things, surely you may have some misunderstandings about me." Yuan Shenfei laughed and said casually, "If I really want something, I will never wait for others to give it to me. It would be best if they can give it to me. If not, then I will go and grab it, including my current code name. Do you think I knew that Tequila was going to die before he died?" This answer is very much in the style of Yuan Shenfei. If an ordinary person behaves like Yuan Shenfei in the organization, then his purpose must include climbing up by any means. For example, being under Rum. But for Yuan Shenfei, a psychopath, his previous efforts in the organization were to be able to sprint to the status of a cadre. It is not abrupt to immediately change his job to a salted fish after getting the code name. Even with this kind of indifferent performance, Rum still has to say, since Spiritus became a cadre, he has indeed become much more stable. You see, he has to thank me. So bringing you back to the organization will not bring me any vested interests. On the contrary, it will bring me a lot of unnecessary trouble. I remember I told you that what I hate most is inexplicable trouble. At the same time, I don't intend to cause trouble for myself. So if you have any worries about me, you can rest assured, there is nothing worth pursuing in you. On the contrary, as an elementary school student, you may be able to bring me a lot of fun. So Shirley, enjoy your second life. Toyama Tobi stroked Urarai's head, then pouted in disgust. Sure enough, it is more stress relieving to hit Conan's head. Just when Toyama Tobi was about to leave, he was stopped by Urarai again. Toyama, my sister. I do have information about your sister, but what can you provide me? As a businessman who is not very competent, I don't consider losing money. Toyama Tobi left Urarai with a glimmer of hope, turned around and left, and then began to wait for the seeds of hope to blossom and bear fruit. As for what kind of fruit this seed watered with evil will bear, Toyama Tobi is really looking forward to it. Chapter 282. How many times have I told you to refer to your job title when you are working? Toyama Tobi left without any regrets. Toyama Tobi did not intend to participate in the case of the university professor later today. It was true that Conan could get a disc related to Drugate through this case, but the Dark Knight Baron virus in the disc was not a vegetarian. Even if Conan went to the university professor's house tonight like in the original book, it was destined to be a wasted trip. In other words, the function of the Dark Knight Baron virus was not perfect. Otherwise, if a positioning function was added to the virus program, Detective Conan would not have been serialized for 20 years, and would have ended today. Well, Toyama Tobi decided to take some time to give Rum a suggestion. Since everyone wants to be a villain, they naturally have to be the kind of villain who has a plan and is difficult to deal with. Just when Toyama Tobi was thinking about when to call Rum to keep in touch, Rum contacted Toyama Tobi one step ahead. After opening the door and getting in the car, Yuan Shenfei lit a cigarette and answered the phone. Rum, Spiritus, have you completed the final target of the cleanup list? Rum was still cautious. Even though he and Yuan Shenfei had met before, and his voice and appearance were known to Yuan Shenfei, he still did not forget to use electronic voice disguise during the call. What he was guarding against here was no longer Yuan Shenfei, but the possibility that Yuan Shenfei might be controlled by the enemy and hear his real voice. It can be seen from this that Rum was also an old coward. Yuan Shenfei knew very well that Rum was not asking about the progress of his mission. He had already reported it after completing his mission, and Rum could not have been unaware of it. This was probably just an introduction to lead to a new task. Yuan Shenfei knew it, but he had to give his boss some face when he talked back. Right. The last target on the cleanup list has been taken care of. I found someone who has a grudge against the counterfeit money dealer Silver Fox to do it. Not only did he kill Silver Fox, but the target was also killed. The person who did it successfully escaped and is probably smuggled out of the country now. Amuro Toru will definitely not tell anyone that he helped Toyama Tobi complete the mission, so this matter will become known to everyone, and Amuro Toru knows Toyama Tobi knows it. At this moment, no matter what Toyama Tobi says, Rum has no way to verify it, but Rum does not need to verify it. The intelligence sent back by the organization's undercover in the Metropolitan Police Department clearly shows that the members of the counterfeit money gang suffered heavy casualties, and the leader and the engraver were shot by a pistol. The police have no clue about the murderer. For the organization, as long as the members of the organization can complete the task, the organization will never mind what methods the internal members use to complete the task. This was in the past. Now, the organization does not mind if the internal members use some less radical methods to complete the task. For the definition of radical or not, you can refer to Spiritus's mission experience. Rum has always been very satisfied with the efficiency of Yuan Shenfei's actions, and this time is no exception. After praising Yuan Shenfei for a few words on the phone, he changed the subject. Although the organization is going to enter a dormant period, some businesses must continue to be maintained. Otherwise, with the fierce market competition now, if we really go dormant, I'm afraid that we will not have a place at the table when we come back. Do you understand, Spiritus? Yuan Shenfei understood instantly. I understand. So does the organization have any business competitors that I need to deal with? Tell Kuroso the list, and I will take care of it. Yuan Shenfei did not hide his covetousness for Kuroso. A human-shaped notebook/memo like Kuroso is praised by everyone who has worked with him. The organization has always been a place full of personality. Yuan Shenfei's straightforward statement that he wants to partner with Kuroso is simply in line with the organization's situation. For the cadres of the organization, when there is no mission, who cares whether you, Rum, are the second in command of the organization? Theoretically, as long as everyone gets a code name, they are all on the same level. Doesn't Rum have an idiot under his command, who dreams of replacing Jin? Rum fell silent again after hearing Toyama Tobi's answer. Rum could only confirm once again that Toyama Tobi's mental state was worrying. This person's brain circuit was really different from that of normal people. He finally understood that he couldn't be too subtle when talking to Toyama Tobi. Saying the first half of a sentence and letting his subordinates guess what he meant was a privilege that only normal workplace leaders could enjoy. He was the second in command of the organization. He didn't deserve to be so subtle. No, Spiritus, you're a bit too extreme. I'm going to hand over some of the organization's businesses that can't be transferred underground to you. You don't need to do it yourself. You just need to understand the business situation every once in a while. Rum didn't give Toyama Tobi a chance to think off the track and directly stated the task arrangement. The organization as a whole entered a dormant period, but the organization's arms business could not stop. The income from Tokyo's underground arms trade is an important source of income for the organization. With the arms that Toyama Tobi looted from the Eastern Arms Depot, the organization can now be said to have sufficient supply. Because the arms from the Eastern Arms Depot have little cost, the organization can completely manipulate the price of Tokyo's underground arms. In fact, the organization has already washed some small sellers out of the underground arms market by manipulating prices. The peers are naturally quite dissatisfied with the organization's practice of destroying the market environment. But the organization has people and guns. After killing several batches of arms dealers, to make an example of them, the organization's leading position in Tokyo's underground arms market has been clarified. The arms line must be controlled by the hands of people the organization trusts. In other words, when Karasuma Ranaya does not show up, the people Rum trusts are the people the organization trusts. All Toyama Tobi has to do is to become the person in charge of the underground arms market line. As a cadre, Toyama Tobi does not need to personally participate in arms trading, nor does he need to consider the quality of the business. Rum sent Toyama Tobi more as a supervisor. Money can make people's hearts move. If the organization had not entered a dormant period and hidden underground, the original managers of the arms line would naturally not have any thoughts that they shouldn't have. But when the organization is dormant, it is inevitable that some people will have floating thoughts. This is when Yuan Shenfei takes action. Spiritus himself is notorious in the organization, and he is a very strong deterrent to these people. Yuan Shenfei never drags his feet in doing things. If he finds someone with a problem, he will just kill him. There is never a shortage of people working in the organization, nor is there a shortage of people who want to climb up. Handing over the organization's underground arms trade to Yuan Shenfei is equivalent to Rum giving Yuan Shenfei a disguised reward. The status of Spiritus as a cadre is equivalent to Yuan Shenfei's level, and the person in charge of arms trading is Yuan Shenfei's formal position. If we really want to make an analogy, Yuan Shenfei should be equivalent to the sales director of a group company at this moment. Chapter 283, 50 million. Where did this come from? The criminal group headed by Karasuma Ranai is roughly at this level, compared to a regular group. Karasuma Ranai is the high-ranking chairman of the company. He rarely comes to the company on weekdays, and only communicates with Rum. Rum is equivalent to the general manager of the company, responsible for all matters of the entire company, big and small. Jin is equivalent to the company's vice president and regional director, mainly responsible for the Tokyo area, and also manages the affairs of other regions in Japan. But Jin, the regional director, always likes to do it himself, which also makes Jin's employees dare not fool him easily. There are many businesses that the organization can do, but there are few businesses that can be made into large-scale businesses. Among them, the arms business is the organization's largest business and the most important. Now Toyama Tobi has been appointed by Rum as the person in charge of the arms business, which is equivalent to the general manager handing over the company's main revenue project to Toyama Tobi. It is appropriate to say that Toyama Tobi is the sales director of the black organization. As we all know, there are only two ways to show status in the black organization. One is to gain the trust of the boss, Karasuma and I. It is very difficult to improve one's status in the organization through this method, because ordinary people have no chance to meet Karasuma and I. There is not even Karasuma and I's contact information. Karasuma and I also trusts some old people in the organization, such as Rum, Gin, and Vermouth. Even the highest level that Toyama Tobi can currently connect with is only the general manager Rum. It is difficult to gain the trust of Karasuma and I, so the only way to improve one's status is to take control of the specific affairs of the organization. This is the path that Binga, who is under wants to take. It is clear at a glance which position is higher between the cadres in charge of the logistics group and Jin in charge of the action group. Among the many positions that can improve one's status, Binga chose the one-step option, which brings up a new problem. Except for the intelligence group in charge of Rum, the action group in charge of Jin is the most important. Binga wants to take the path of the action group, but someone has already reached the end of this path. There is only one chair, and Binga can't sit down, no matter how hard he tries. Unless he can pull Jin up and then let himself sit down. Can Binga sit down? Or does he really have the ability to pull Jin up? Obviously not. Jin never took Binga seriously. Until the end, Binga was annoying, or really made Jin feel a little threatened. It evolved into the final "I can't rest until he dies," so Jin read it but didn't reply, and buried Binga with a submarine. Now Toyama Tobi has taken up the position of sales director. This position or the power of the black organization itself was stripped from Rum. There is no conflict of interest with anyone. Obviously Rum has also thought about it carefully. With Toyama Tobi's character, once there is a conflict with any cadre in the organization, the cadre will definitely not live to the next day. As for the consequences, it depends on the major things Toyama Tobi has done since his debut. Is he a person who will consider the consequences? It can be said that this position given to Toyama Tobi has not only increased Toyama Tobi's status and given him rewards, but also freed Rum from the complicated mundane affairs. Compared with the organization's huge intelligence network, an underground arms trading line can really be called a mundane matter. In this way, Toyama Tobi became the new god of wealth of the organization because of a phone call from Rum. Although Jin is doing money-making tasks all day long, if we really talk about the ability to attract money, the money he makes may not be as much as the arms trading. Who made Beaker Town so full of martial virtues? The Beaker Town alone has driven the entire arms market to an unknown amount of trading volume. Although there are not too many large-scale arms transactions, they cannot withstand the crowding of retail. One after another, retail orders have made the organization's arms trading have the momentum of wholesale. After announcing that he would become the sales director of the organization, Toyama Tobi took office the next day. After a cordial and friendly meeting with the management of the arms group, Toyama Tobi issued his first personnel appointment since taking office. As a cadre of the organization, Toyama Tobi naturally has no time and energy to take care of the organization's arms business. Therefore, all the management personnel will not be adjusted, but Kyoshitsugu will join the management of the arms group as the spokesperson of Toyama Tobi. Kyoshitsugu is not responsible for specific affairs, but he will be the eyes and ears of Toyama Tobi and keep an eye on the management of the arms group. Toyama Tobi doesn't care what these management people think, nor does he care whether they will be angry because Kyoshitsugu joins to dilute their authority. If the business of the arms group deteriorates due to the joining of Toyama Tobi, then before blames Toyama Tobi himself, he will blame the management first. Needless to say, the fate of useless people in the organization is nothing more than death. Of course, working for Toyama Tobi is not without benefits. As long as it is acceptable, Toyama Tobi doesn't care how much benefit these management can get from the transaction. In a word, everyone can eat meat by following Toyama Tobi. But if someone wants to smash everyone's pot, there will basically be no such idiots who can get into the management of the organization. because such idiots have already lost their lives in struggles. Everything went on as usual in the following days. Under Rum's arrangement, the organization smoothly entered a dormant period. The sales of arms also gradually increased with the increasing crime rate in Bika Town. Yoshitsugu is really a versatile person. He is very successful in the management of the arms group. With the tiger skin of Toyama Tobi, everyone has to give him some face. In contrast, Yoshitsugu really got a lot of handles of the management in a short period of time. How many of them are the pledges of allegiance given by others? Yoshitsugu slowly investigates and analyzes. Yoshitsugu is talking on the phone with Toyama Tobi, and he is not talking about the pledges of allegiance. Instead, Yoshitsugu found a plan in the recent business of the arms group that his leader will definitely be interested in. If I heard it correctly, you just said 50 million yen? Yes, brother, it's 50 million yen. This person is going to kidnap 56,000 hostages and is going to take 50 million yen. Toyama Tobi listened to the interesting things Yoshitsugu told him on the phone. A photographer from Bika bought 2 guns at a sales point under the Bika Black Market Arms Group. Then he turned around and found the peripheral members of the organization and invited them to form a team. Coincidentally, the peripheral members belonged to the arms group, so the plan was naturally known to Kamakoto. The Bika photographer planned to kidnap 56,000 hostages during the Emperor's Cup football final at the National Stadium, and then demanded a ransom of 50 million yen from Nichimi TV. Afterwards, he agreed to give 10 million yen to the peripheral members of the organization. To be honest, since Toyama Tobi came to the Conan world, the robbers he encountered were all in the unit of 100 million. Now when he heard 50 million out of the blue, he almost didn't react. 50 million? What kind of bumpkin did this guy come from? I'm a dignified Nichimi TV station. How could I owe you 50 million? Exclamation mark. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284, the Medi Cup Football Final. The indiscriminate coercion incident in the stadium is also one of the classic plots in the early stage of Detective Conan. The main reason why it is classic is that with the efforts of a group of Bihua gangsters, the amount of robbery was finally raised to 1 billion yen, and Miyano Akemi even sacrificed her precious life for this. As a result, just a few days after Habura AI became smaller, this photographer from Bihua suddenly hit the market again. This is Nichimi TV, the largest TV station in Tokyo and even in Japan in the Conan world, and it is a TV station that has no rivals at all. This Bihua old song kidnapped 56,000 hostages in the stadium and then asked for 50 million yen. Who is this looking down on? The reason why Yoshitsugu specially called Toyama Tobi to tell him this information is very simple. As an old-fashioned old man who is experienced in human relationships, Yoshitsugu is getting better and better under the care of Toyama Tobi. Why didn't Yoshitsugu want to stand out among the peripheral members before? Isn't it because he doesn't know what kind of boss he will be assigned to after he stands out? Everyone comes out to sell their lives, isn't it just to make a living and eat? There shouldn't be anyone in the organization who really has any beliefs or lofty ideals. Yoshitsugu is a highly educated talent who entered the organization for further studies after graduating from a social university. He has always seen things more clearly than other people in the organization. Since following the leader Toyama Tobi, he has been eating a lot of oil, and his living standard has risen by more than one level. The leader Toyama has less work to do and pays generously. The most important thing is that following Toyama has a better advantage than other cadres, that is safety. Toyama Tobi has 2.5 direct members. Let's not talk about the half who disappeared for himself. The rest, whether Yoshitsugu or Anominahudo, are grateful to Toyama Tobi from the bottom of their hearts. There is no harm without comparison. No one in the organization who can survive among the peripheral members with an astonishing attrition rate is stupid. Toyama Tobi is obviously a strong and capable person in the organization. Yoshitsugu, one of the first people to cling to Toyama, has no reason to let go of him. Otherwise, how can Yoshitsugu be said to be experienced in human relations? He had long seen that Toyama Tobi was unwilling to be lonely. His own leader likes to do big things and like big scenes. As the #1 loyal dog under Toyama, he naturally has to provide the latest fun to his brother in time. This innocent photographer who found the arms group's rice flour distribution point and his crazy plan to kidnap 56,000 people, plus his presumptuous approach to the peripheral members of the arms group, just showed Kyoshitsugu the prototype of a big scene of fun. Kyoshitsugu, who unexpectedly got this auspicious sign from heaven, naturally would not miss this great opportunity to take a picture of the leader's flattery at the first time. TSK, 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 such a good opportunity, so many hostages, but the photographer from Mihua only wants 50 million. It's really embarrassing for Mihua people. His predecessors are still in prison watching him. It's a pity that such a big place is left to him alone. Brother Yuanshin, do you want me to find someone to take over his plan? Kamakoto suddenly asked Yuanshin Fumi. Kamakoto is now a small leader of the organization, and even the management of the arms group. There are also people with guns under his command, but the quality can't be guaranteed. The quality of the peripheral members of the organization is definitely mixed, with a high upper limit, undercover/talented monster, and a low lower limit that is outrageous. As for the number of members with a high upper limit among the formal members, it is not much different from that of the peripheral members, but at least the lower limit is much higher than that of the peripheral members. After becoming the management of the arms group, Kamakoto also found a few people who can't be said to be good seedlings, but can only be said to be suitable. The other party just happened to have the need to stand out, and Kamakoto and them hit it off. If Toyama Tobi nodded, he would use this part of the newly recruited personnel. Toyama Tobi firmly rejected Kyoshitsugu's kindness. There is no need to do anything extra. It is not good for us to take over his plan. Let the photographer continue with his plan. For such a large venue, I will help him find some colleagues to warm up and liven up the atmosphere. After hanging up the phone, Toyama Tobi sat in the car and thought. His memory has reached a very strong level after rounds of strengthening. At least it is not difficult to recall the Conan plots he watched in his previous life. But after Toyama Tobi traveled through time, he rarely took the initiative to recall the plot of the original work. Generally, he would remember the plot when he encountered an event, and his main point was to go with the flow. Now facing such a big stage, Toyama Tobi doesn't mind using his smart little head to add a different color to the Emperor's Cup football final. The bullshit Emperor's Cup. How ugly it sounds. Wouldn't it be just right to call it the Limei Cup? After returning to the hotel, Yuan Shinfei spent the whole night checking the organization's intelligence database. It should be said that it was indeed the intelligence database that Rum was in charge of. All the intelligence that Yuan Shinfei wanted to find was actually in it. Only then did he realize why the peripheral members of the organization always seemed to be inexhaustible and inexhaustible. Because these strange criminals in the intelligence database were all reserve members of the organization. Whenever the organization's manpower reached a dangerous line and needed to recruit new members, it would select some desperate guys from the intelligence database about various criminals, fugitives, and temporarily undiscovered murderers. Give them a way to live and a clear promotion channel, and this group of people don't even need special persuasion. They will regard the organization as a perfect place to return. For a desperate criminal, what better employment option is there than joining a large criminal group with good treatment? Through the authority of the intelligence group, Yuan Shinfei got a list of spectators who were confirmed to attend the football final. Then, Toyama Tobi used the organization's channels to send extortion letters to some Bika criminals in the intelligence database who had committed crimes but had not yet been discovered, using the identities of the people on the list. These extortion letters have some clues that can reveal the identity of the sender, as long as you pay attention. This kind of detective game is very consistent with the folk customs of Bika Town. Everyone likes reasoning games for these specific criminals. Toyama Tobi also asked Kamakoto to notify the underground arms sales store to give them a beautiful discount. In this way, no matter how destitute the gangsters selected by Toyama Tobi are, Toyama Tobi can at least guarantee that they have a pistol in their hands. The wealthier gangsters can even afford remote-controlled bomb packages. After some preparations were done, even Toyama Tobi began to be moved by himself. There are too few conscientious businessmen like him in this era. After the organization's people completed these preliminary preparations, Toyama Tobi personally completed the last item of preparation. He published an advertisement in the newspaper, and the content of the advertisement was a prize guessing event. Tokyo football match travel. Chapter 285. Not only Keel, but also Hondaike. Well, the little fish in the river can't stand the loneliness and have jumped out of the water to bite the hook. There is still some time before the Limei Cup football final on January 1st, but Yuan Shenfei, who has made many preparations, has no premonition of a storm. The murderers whose crimes have not yet been discovered are all people who are not presentable. Even if 60% of the criminals on Yuan Shenfei's list have purchased preferential packages from the underground arms sales point, they dare only make some plans and preparations in secret. In Tokyo under the sun, everyone sings, dances, and works as usual. At the same time, the fans are more looking forward to the football final on New Year's Day, which is expected to be very exciting. Not to mention that there seems to be a big boss in the group of fans who has a temper. This big boss suddenly provided 10 tickets for the day of the game. As long as you can answer the questions he asked, you can get a ticket. Most of the fans who didn't buy tickets for various reasons are deeply grateful to this boss named Seisanai. Although they need to guess the riddles to get the tickets, the owner of Mitsuha doesn't need them to pay for it, and doesn't need them to return the favor. He gave away 10 valuable tickets for free, so why not let them be willful? Many fans in Tokyo who didn't buy tickets became agitated, including Rina Mizunoshi of Nichimi TV. Compared to Toru Amuro, who had learned the reason for the organization's dormancy from Toyama Tobi, Rina Mizunoshi seemed to be in a worse situation. Toru Amuro, as a cadre of the intelligence team under usually works alone to obtain intelligence. But Rina Mizunoshi is not a member of the intelligence team, so she has a partner. Most of the tasks she needs to carry out require the cooperation of teammates. Toyama Tobi is her partner, but she hasn't seen her partner for a long time. The sudden dormant order put Rina Mizunoshi in a rather embarrassing situation. After finally getting rid of the situation of being the mascot of the organization and teaming up with a rising star like Spiritus, it can be said that, as long as she holds on to Toyama Tobi's thighs and gains the trust of the organization, it is natural for her to rise in the organization status. This is called one person's success brings prosperity to the whole family. Everything was originally developing in a good direction. But suddenly, the partner who was originally inseparable suddenly withdrew, just like a man in a pair of ambiguous men and women who suddenly read and did not reply. Then came the order from Rum to all hibernate. This order has different requirements for different people. For Ina Mizuno, this order means that she needs to return to her original trajectory again. That is, continue to return to Nichimi TV as her popular host. Rina Mizuno is very anxious. She is an anxious king. Especially after the suddenly cold ambiguous object was suddenly promoted to the sales director of the company, Rina Mizuno became even more anxious. No, didn't we agree to hibernate together? Why did you suddenly get a high profile promotion? At this point in time, Toyama Tobi suddenly became a big boss of the organization. For Mizuno Rina, this thigh that she was originally prepared to hold on to suddenly left. Without Toyama Tobi to help her rise to the top, Mizuno Rina might return to the situation of the original mascot. The most terrible thing is that once the entire organization falls into a dormant period, except for Jin who needs to pay money regularly, there are very few people in the entire action team who can go out to perform tasks. Mizuno Rina's name will definitely not be on this trust list of the organization. For Mizuno Rina now, the most important thing for her is to ensure that she cannot lose contact with her partner or former partner. If the contact between the two parties is broken, the good start that Mizuno Rina has waited for with great difficulty will be back to square one. So Mizuno Rina is more and more passionate about Toyama Tobi. Busy man, it's really not easy to ask you out once. In the private room of the high-end restaurant, Mizuno Rina looked at Toyama Tobi who came late and teased with a smile. There was not even a trace of indifference in her expression towards being late. Today seemed to be a good day to deepen the test or to show down. I can't help it. I'm very busy. I didn't know that being in charge of specific affairs in the organization would be so busy. Yuan Shenfei lied. He was not busy at all. Even after the preliminary preparations for the Lee makeup were completed, he was still very free. The reason why he came so late was to see Mizuno Rina's attitude. Now it seems that Mizuno Rina and the others really can't wait. As mentioned earlier, in principle, after the members of the organization obtain their own wine names and become cadres, everyone has the same status. Whether it is rum or kill, everyone is a cadre of the organization. But in fact, wherever there are people, there will be high and low status. Even if there are only 2 people in a place, one of the 2 people will be responsible for making decisions. The organization is no exception. If someone really believes this nonsense, then he will definitely not become a cadre of the organization. But the organization also has its own unspoken rules. That is, the status of the organization is more reflected in the tasks. During the mission, people with high status will have more dominance and freedom. People with low status can only obey the arrangements of their temporary superiors. But in daily life, these unruly cadres in the organization will not give face so much. In the action team, except for Vodka who calls Jin Big Brother, others like Chianti or Cohen call Jin by his code name. Even when facing the second in command of the organization, Rum, everyone will at most call him Rum, and rarely add Sir after the code name. Only formal members or peripheral members will add Sir or Big Brother after the code name when facing cadres. If Mizuno Rina came here today just to conduct a simple test of Toyama Tobi, then in the face of Toyama Tobi's lateness, Mizuno Rina will do something that is in line with the organization's cadre keel. Either leave early or express your dissatisfaction directly when Toyama Tobi arrives. From Keel's perspective, facing Toyama Tobi's lateness, the thinking of an organization cadre should be, we are all cadres of the organization. Maybe you, Spiritus, have a higher status, but I don't need to ask you, and I'm not doing the mission. Why do you neglect me like this? But Mizuno Rina didn't show any unswerving color when they met, which means that Mizuno Rina sitting here today is not just the identity of the organization's keel. CIA agents who have not yet achieved their goals are always patient and more tolerant at this time. Chapter 286 The real danger has just begun. After some meaningless greetings, the box fell into a brief silence. At this moment, Toyama Tobi and Mizuno Rina were in a subtle state of tacit understanding, just waiting for an opportunity. An opportunity to break the window paper. Toyama Tobi, who had no patience to play the tacit game with Mizuno Rina, was the first to break the silence in the room. Okay, Joel, we have met and said all the nonsense that should be said. Now it's time to talk about why you are so anxious to find me. As Toyama Tobi spoke, his scrutinizing eyes kept flowing across Mizuno Rina's face. Miya no Akimi was in trouble in your hands. Toyama Tobi's words directly made Mizuno Rina's heart tremble. What the hell did he just say? Miya no Akimi was in trouble in their hands? Exclamation mark. How did he know? Without any hesitation, Mizuno Rina showed the most important quality of an agent: decisiveness. Toyama Tobi had said so much. Even if she was slow, she should know that her identity had been exposed. It is not clear how much she has exposed yet, but Rina Mizuno knows that she is already in a very dangerous situation. For today's meeting, Toyama Tobi was late for a long time. During this time, Spiritus was investigating her identity or gathering people from the organization to ambush her here. Everything is possible. Fortunately, there are only 2 of them in the box now. If they can control Toyama Tobi, they will have more to talk about. Rina Mizuno decisively pulled out her gun, but the gun was put down by Toyama Tobi right after it was taken out. It is true that the gun is fast at a distance of 7 steps, and it is accurate and fast within 7 steps. But the premise is that it can be fired at any time. In the case of Rina Mizuno, who pulled out the gun without any preparation, her movements were obviously not as fast as Toyama Tobi. After taking the gun from Rina Mizuno, Toyama Tobi did not make any further control movements. He just put the gun on the table, where he could easily get it, and looked at Rina Mizuno strangely. By the way, shouldn't undercover agents like you usually stick to your guns when facing such situations? Why do you become so decisive? Without waiting for Ina Mizuno to answer, Toyama Tobi acted as if he suddenly realized something. Yes, I figured it out. The more than 1 billion yen that Akemi Miyano robbed should have fallen into your hands as expected. According to what you said, you should have used this money as a political donation. Once an undercover agent has a safe retreat, whether the mission is completed or not is indeed less important than his own safety. But Jill, since it is no longer important whether the undercover mission is completed or not, why do you come and provoke me at this time? The sarcasm in Toyama Tobi's eyes could not stop overflowing. Don't you really think your disguise is so good, or your actions are so flawless? Calmness is also a necessary quality for an agent. So many years of undercover career have also given Rina Mizuno a big heart. After discovering that Toyama Tobi had no intention of throwing the cup as a signal, Mizuno Rina had a very absurd guess. Judging from Toyama Tobi's words, Mizuno Rina was sure that her undercover identity should have been exposed shortly after she came into contact with Toyama Tobi. But whether it was destroying the organization's bank robbery activities or arresting Miyano Akemi, the infiltration team was smooth, as if assisted by God. Now it seems that assisted by God is not appropriate, but Spiritus did acquiesce to some of their actions and even provided them with some intelligence intentionally or unintentionally. But Mizuno Rina couldn't help but ask why. Can anyone imagine that Jin suddenly revealed his identity one day and said to Karasuma Anaya, "I'm sorry, I'm a policeman"? Mizuno Rina couldn't imagine that Toyama Tobi would actually acquiesce to their actions. According to the observation and judgment of Toyama Tobi by the Hondo infiltration team, the way of directly inciting Toyama Tobi is not advisable. The black organization is a huge comfort zone for Toyama Tobi. It is difficult to think about wanting a person to step out of his comfort zone for no reason. Therefore, the strategy of the Hondo infiltration team for Toyama Tobi is to drive him with benefits, deepen the connection, and finally bind the two parties so that Toyama Tobi cannot get off the boat. This is also a common method used by CIA agents when facing certain confidential units. After all, a stranger asking you to sell some confidential intelligence right away will definitely make people alert. But if you just buy some unimportant information at the beginning, there will definitely be many people who will not mind making a little extra money. This method of boiling a frog in warm water and cutting meat with a blunt knife will be too late when it is discovered. If it weren't for the unexpected incident that the organization entered a dormant period, Mizuno Rina would probably continue to firmly implement this plan. Of course, by that time, she would probably never find out that the successful action against Miyano Akemi was not because of their careful planning and strong execution, but because someone acquiesced to their actions and even helped them secretly. This discovery did not make Mizuno Rina ecstatic. She was even a little panicked. For intelligence personnel like her, the unknown, unpredictable, and inability to judge are what make them most uncomfortable. You know, our actions not only did not stop them, but even fueled the situation, allowing us to successfully capture Akemi Miyano. Spiritus, are you going to betray the organization? Hey, that's not what I said. Toyama Tobi shook her head and denied Mizuno Rina's statement. How can this be called betrayal? Miyano Akemi's actions are not my responsibility. Whether she defected from the organization or was captured is not related to me. Stopping your actions will not bring me any practical benefits. If I don't stop them, there may be some unexpected gains. Toyama Tobi picked up Mizuno Rina's pistol and began to wipe the fingerprints he left on the gun. While wiping, he said, I joined the organization just to make a living. Since it's to make a living, isn't it normal for a good bird to choose a tree and wait for a price? Mizuno Rina nodded to indicate that she understood. Her judgment of Toyama Tobi was correct. This person had no loyalty to the organization and was a profit-oriented creature. This kind of evaluation is not necessarily a good evaluation anywhere, but for CIA agents like Mizuno Rina, it is the favorite target. Rina Mizuno, she was also very clear that Toyama Tobi had already shown all his goodwill. Whether it was the success of their operation against Miyano Akemi or the fact that she was still alive, it was all the goodwill that Toyama Tobi showed to her and the intelligence agency behind her. Next, it was their turn to show Toyama Tobi their sincerity. It is conceivable that, if the sincerity they showed could not satisfy Toyama Tobi, unless Rina Mizunoshi fled to the United States immediately after leaving the box, her danger would just begin. I need to contact my superior. A reasonable request. Toyama Tobi made a gesture of invitation. Chapter 287. This informant has important information to tell you. After Rina Mizunoshi finished calling her team leader and returned to the box, Toyama Tobi had already left for a long time. After Rina Mizunoshi and her boss had an urgent discussion, they thought this was an opportunity that could not be missed. Toyama Tobi didn't give them too many options at all. They could only choose two ways. One was to show Toyama Tobi their sincerity and also show the strength of the CIA. Luca Weaver, Rina Mizunoshi's team leader, especially believed that the display of strength was necessary. In the past, when the Black Organization dealt with various intelligence agencies, the Black Organization always had the upper hand. There were countless undercover intelligence agents from various agencies who were found and executed. As a cadre who grew up step by step from the grassroots of the Black Organization, Toyama Tobi inevitably received biased information. Can the Black Organization really challenge the CIA? Obviously not. Even the CIA's Japanese branch has never focused its work on the Black Organization. Not to mention that the CIA Langley headquarters has to deal with the organization. Even if the Japanese branch and the organization are in conflict, the organization may not be able to withstand it. As a veteran intelligence agency in the United States, the resources that the CIA can leverage are unimaginable to ordinary people. The most basic thing is that you, Jin, can fight, right? Then who is better at fighting, you or those American Special Forces soldiers? The organization only has one Jin bar, but the CIA can continuously seek support from the military. Luca Weaver is afraid that Toyama Tobi's understanding of the power of the CIA is not in place, which will lead to unhappiness when everyone cooperates. Luca Weaver and his infiltration team certainly cannot represent the Langley headquarters, and they can't even represent the Tokyo branch. So Luca Weaver is seeking an equal cooperation status between the two parties. He is not unwilling to try to take the lead in the cooperation like a Murotoru, but to let their tails be caught by Toyama Tobi first. It's not a pleasant feeling to be controlled by others. What's wrong, EK? Luca Weaver just put down the phone and received another call from Mizunoshi Rina. The agent's instinct told him that perhaps there was something new going on with Rina Mizuno. When I returned to the box, Toyama Tobi had already left, but he left a list on the table. It seemed to be a list. Rina Mizuno shook a page that was torn from a notebook while she was talking on the phone. There were 5 names on it. The names on the list all looked like men's names, some Japanese names, some Korean names, and some names in Western formats. These names didn't look special, and they were ordinary at first glance. Rina Mizuno was just unsure of Toyama Tobi's intention of leaving these names, so she called her team leader. Read me the names on the list, Luca Weaver said. There are Kiriya Yamagami, Park Jung-mang, Jason Valentine, Dakin Byrne, and Sancho Tanaka. After these 5 names were said, even Luca Weaver didn't know what was on the list. You want to say that Toyama Tobi asked them to help investigate these people, but where can they check for just one name? It's true that they are CIA agents, but agents are not turtles in a wishing well. You can't just make wishes here, but give some specific hints. There is definitely no way to check. Who knows how much resources it will take to investigate such a random list. If he just handed in this list, Luca Weaver even felt that he could hand in a sincere resignation letter. Otherwise, it would be a bit embarrassing to be kicked out of the company at such an old age. Luca Weaver rubbed his temples uncomfortably. It turned out that dealing with mental illness is extremely painful. Ying-hei, come back first. Let's discuss what the list that damn Spike by Toast gave us means. The list that Yuan Shenfei handed to them actually didn't have any other meaning. It was mainly to ask the CIA to help with the identity. If there is a fellow villager of Toyama Tobi in the infiltration team, they will also see how ridiculous these names are. A variant of the #1 male gun in the Japanese server, a spliced version of the male protagonist of a Hollywood movie agent, and another half-baked name that is randomly named. It is obvious that these identities are all fake identities prepared by Toyama Tobi for himself. This requirement is inspired by Toyama Tobi, based on the Burn supremacy. Toyama Tobi does not intend to quit and stop making trouble, so of course he has to prepare a few more fake identities when he is in the underworld. It is not terrible to have a face in Beaker Town, but it is not fun if the identity is also the same. Toyama Tobi asked Mizuno Rina and others to make a fake certificate that would be found to be fake upon inspection. Instead, it is the kind of fake identity that is unique to intelligence agencies and officially created, the kind that can withstand general investigations and has legal effect. Anyway, Toyama Tobi has handed the list to Mizuno Rina, but whether their infiltration team can understand Toyama Tobi's meaning is another matter. If everyone does not even have this tacit understanding, how can we carry out the next cooperation? That's it. With this level, are you planning to kill me in the organization? In addition to slightly controlling Rina Mizunoshi and the people behind her, the reason why Toyama Tobi left so quickly was that the time for his next game was coming. Before meeting Rina Mizunoshi, Toyama Tobi made an appointment with Sato and Takagi from the Investigation Division 1 for afternoon tea. Of course, the three of them would not really go for afternoon tea, and Toyama Tobi had no intention of being a light bulb for Takagi. Although with Takagi's progress in attacking Sato, it was too early for Toyama Tobi to be a light bulb. But when three people go out to eat together, you sit alone on one side, and the other man and woman sit opposite you. This feeling is quite subtle. The reason why Takagi and Sato were asked out at this time is because Toyama Tobi wants to add fuel to the fire of the next Lee Cup. As we all know, the murderers of Mecha are all quite individual, and they always like to challenge the police and detectives. Specifically, they generally do not escape immediately after committing a crime, but try to wash off their suspicion through sophisticated methods. But according to current statistics, the murderers of Mecha at most did something in front of the detectives, such as killing someone. No murderer is nervous enough to commit a crime in front of the police. In the early stages of the murder, and during the crime, the Metropolitan Police Department's detectives have a relatively large deterrent effect on the criminals. In this way, once the murderer finds that the Metropolitan Police Department's detectives appear at the scene of the Lee Cup, their original detailed plan is likely to reveal flaws due to the hasty action. This is the effect that Toyama Tobi wants. How can a place with 56,000 people be secretly doing their own things? Get excited, little brothers. Chapter 288 I haven't even called yet. Why are the police here? January 1st National Stadium. Outside the football field, Garuda is debugging the equipment in front of him, but he is somewhat absent-minded at the moment. Garuda is the number 13 photographer of this broadcast of Nichimi TV. Of course, he has another identity, that is, the mastermind of the bank robbery planned 4 years ago. Unfortunately, the bank robbery plan that he planned 4 years ago with all his family property and wealth was forced to be cancelled because of the first store manager program of Beaker TV. His girlfriend at the time chose to commit suicide because she couldn't bear such a blow. But since his girlfriend committed suicide, his luck seems to have improved. He is now a photographer for Nichimi TV. Although this is not a high-paying job, it is also a stable income. As his years of work increase, his salary will gradually increase. Even if he doesn't get promoted in this life, as long as he doesn't get married and have children, doesn't get involved in gambling and drugs, and doesn't buy a house, his life can be considered moist. Not to mention that when he retires, he can get a considerable amount of pension. Many housewives choose to divorce after their husbands retire, so that they can get a considerable portion of the pension. At that time, using this money to become a rich and powerful woman is the routine operation of women who are tired of being housewives. As an old Mecha man, such a life that can be seen at a glance is naturally not what Hiruda expects. It is impossible to work. He has planned to rob a bank, so he naturally looks down on this kind of honest work. The adventurous factor in the Mecha man's genes constantly urges him to do something big, and soon he has found an excuse for himself. He wants to avenge his girlfriend. The reason why the bank robbery was terminated early was all because of the damn program of Nimori TV. The death of Hiruda's girlfriend is definitely the fault of Nimori TV, and it has nothing to do with his failure to do a good job of preliminary reconnaissance. After 4 years of precipitation, Garuda feels that he has grown up. He went undercover in Imuri TV and made a detailed and thorough plan early. What he lacks the least when working at Nimi TV is the opportunity to take action. As the top TV station in Japan in the Conan world, Nimi TV broadcasts many large-scale events like the current one, but Hiruda doesn't want to wait any longer. New Year's Day is a good day, and with the arrival of the new year, he naturally wants to set an example for other colleagues in Mika. When Hiruda was planning a bank robbery, he thought about robbing as much as he could. 300 million yen is just the baseline for Mika gangsters to become well-known thieves. He believes that with his talent, he will definitely make a name for himself in this industry. Of course, that was when he was young. Now he has matured and has a deeper understanding of the vested interests of criminal plans. It's not that the TV station can't come up with 100 million or 800 million yen for extortion from Nimi TV. But if they really do this, Nimi TV will definitely not let it go. So Hiruda is going to extort 50 million yen this time. 50 million is not a big deal for Nimi TV, and it is completely within the acceptable range. The most dangerous stages are extortion, ransom recovery, and evacuation from the stadium. As long as he successfully leaves the national stadium with the money, the subsequent investigation will not be so dangerous for him. So he went to the underground black market intermediary to find a teammate who seemed to be reliable. This time he planned to complete the extortion in the form of separating people and goods. Everything is ready, and in fact he doesn't need any preparation. He bought 2 guns on the underground black market and found a teammate to explain his plan. Now he just needs to wait for all the spectators to enter and the game to officially begin. Hiruda hastily debugged the equipment and then began to observe the situation in the stands with the convenience of the photographic equipment. This sight immediately made Hiruda frown. As a photographer specializing in the broadcast of sports events, Hiruda has accumulated a lot of experience in the past 4 years of work. Because he is a photographer specializing in shooting live audiences, he is quite familiar with the audience who are entering and have already entered the stadium. He knew clearly what the audience was like when they entered the stadium, what they were like when the game was exciting, and what they were like when the game was ugly. But the problem was here. When he observed the stands through the camera, he found a large number of audience members who seemed to be out of tune with the other audience members. After entering the venue, ordinary audience members either chatted with the people around them or looked at the venue excitedly. Otherwise, they took pictures and chatted with others on their mobile phones. But the faces of those people that Hiruda saw were not excited at all, but nervous and cautious. It looked like plainclothes officers were looking for criminals in the stands. Yes, plainclothes officers. Hiruda suddenly realized, and then he gritted his teeth in embarrassment. What on earth is going on with these bastards from Nichimi TV? They disrupted his bank robbery 4 years ago, so 4 years later, they asked the police to disrupt him again. There were only 2 people involved in their action plan, and even he was the only one who knew the whole plan. Even his temporary teammates only knew the plan for the part of the action that he was responsible for. Those plainclothes officers were just policemen, not priests who could predict the future. They had no way of knowing his plan. So, a fugitive had sneaked into the stadium? Hiruda was so angry that his teeth were itching. It turned out that only colleagues had the most naked hatred. He secretly hated that he had better not let him know who made his plan more difficult. Otherwise the TT-33 Tokarev pistol in his hand would not be a decoration. In the director's car outside the national stadium, Officer Mejiwa stared at the screens on the director's car with a serious expression. And from time to time, he used the walkie-talkie in his hand to contact the police officers in the stadium. Officer Sato is a deputy inspector of the 3rd Department of the Investigation Division and is also a deputy position in the department. She did not lead the team to search in the stadium, but was on standby in the director's car. Once an emergency really happened in the stadium, she would need to lead the team to provide support. Kaneko, the director of Nichimi TV who was responsible for the broadcast of this event, was somewhat helpless about the fuss made by these Metropolitan Police Department detectives. He broadcast at least 80 matches. What on earth is wrong with these policemen that makes them so nervous? Hey, Toyama, are you sure something will happen in the stadium during today's football final? Officer Sato quietly approached Toyama Tobi and asked him for confirmation. Toyama Tobi spread his hands and looked very innocent. I told you yesterday afternoon that I definitely don't have any evidence. After all, I got this information based on hearsay. I can only say that there is a high probability that something will happen during today's football final. Chapter 289. We have spotted a group of young suicidal people. All police officers are on level 1 alert. In the afternoon, when Toyama Tobi invited Takagi and Sato to have afternoon tea, he also told the two police officers about the intelligence he had obtained. The intelligence Toyama Tobi gave was specious. At best, it was the kind of intelligence he had heard from others, that it seemed that several people were planning to take advantage of the football match in the national stadium to do something. This kind of intelligence is usually based on hearsay and there is no direct evidence. Toyama Tobi just said it, and Takagi and Sato just listened to it. But who can blame Toyama Tobi for having such a high favorability in the Metropolitan Police Department? In addition, Toyama Tobi's previous work has left a very reliable impression on the detectives of the Metropolitan Police Department. This information came from Toyama Tobi's mouth, and everyone in the Investigation Division 1 took it very seriously. But if it was just this vague intelligence, it would not be enough for Inspector Media to make such a big move. If the Investigation Division 1 had such a big operation, and nothing happened to the National Stadium, Inspector Media would definitely be criticized for wasting police resources afterwards. Coincidentally, just before the football match at the National Stadium, the Metropolitan Police Department's other departments destroyed an underground gun sales den. As you can see from the name, the so-called gun sales den and the organized underground arms sales are completely different things. The difference is like the difference between a large chain supermarket and a night market stall. The scale is not a little different. This kind of gun sales den is not easy to get a long gun, let alone a bomb. After the underground gun sales point was shut down, the Metropolitan Police Department immediately launched a surprise investigation of the sellers at the sales point. As a result, 2 or 3 unlucky guys on the list of Toyama Tobi were arrested and taken back to the Metropolitan Police Department before the football match started. After high-intensity interrogation by professional interrogation experts, several suspects with average psychological qualities confessed their plans to commit the crime. It was on January 1st, during the game at the National Stadium, that they carried out their criminal actions. This important discovery directly confirmed the accuracy of Toyama Tobi's intelligence from the side. What's more terrifying is that through the interrogation of these prepared murderers, the police learned that these arrested suspects did not know each other and had no intersection on weekdays. They were complete strangers. But if there was really no connection, how could they choose to commit their crimes at the same time and place by coincidence? After another in-depth investigation, the police finally found that not long ago, these would-be murderers all received an anonymous threatening letter. But the threatening letter did not have obvious clues about the sender. As the investigation deepened, the police found that the targets of these clues were all spectators who would watch the game at the National Stadium on New Year's Day. To deal with such an emergency, the safest way should be to stop the football game immediately. But the evidence in the hands of the police did not support them to do so. This large-scale event involves many departments and interest units. If the game is stopped because of such similar clues, the impact will be very large. Let's not talk about anything else. Even if the organizer of the event cooperates with you to stop the game on that day this time. But what about next time? What if you encounter this situation again on the next game day? Continue to stop it? The enemy is hidden, and we are in the light. We can't just stop this event indefinitely because of this silent threat. Stopping the game was not feasible, so the police had no choice but to take another approach and let the detectives from the investigation division appear at the scene. While investigating the scene, they had to disguise themselves, but not completely. That is, the murderers who were about to take action would find the police at the scene first, which would be a deterrent to the murderers. No matter how arrogant these murderers were, there was a high probability that they would not choose to take action at the National Stadium due to their own safety. After all, although the murderers in this world had very strange brain circuits, there were not many who had the courage to risk being discovered and kill people under the eyes of the police. This was a last resort. Wait, cut back the picture of this camera. Sato suddenly pointed at one of the screens in the director's car and shouted excitedly. The director Kaneko of Nichimi TV thought that Officer Sato had found some clues or suspicious persons and immediately ordered the cameraman to turn the camera back. The picture on the screen was ordinary, at least in the eyes of the director Kaneko. The picture should be a group of children who came to watch the game, right in front of the stands. After hesitating for a while, Director Kaneko couldn't bear the doubts in her heart and asked Sato in a measured tone, "Officer Sato, is there anything wrong with these children?" Not only Sato was in the director's car, but all the detectives in the Investigation Division 1 who knew Conan and the juvenile suicide group all looked solemn. Sato stared at the screen intently, but she did not stop her from answering the doubts of the director of Nichimi TV. "There is nothing wrong with these children, but they appeared in this place at this time, which is a bit wrong." Sato's riddleman behavior successfully made Director Kaneko fall into doubt. No matter how he looked at these children, they were just ordinary children. But the detectives in the Investigation Division 1 were really in a state of panic. Even Officer Mejo had already taken the intercom and began to arrange a small number of police officers in the stadium to move closer to the seats of the juvenile suicide group. The appearance of the juvenile suicide group alone might not make the detectives in the Investigation Division 1 so excited, but the reputation of the suicide group for being good at committing suicide was also earned by their thrilling achievements of committing suicide time and time again. At this critical moment, the appearance of the juvenile suicide group in this place made the detectives have to think about it. Wouldn't these little ghosts get themselves involved in some life-threatening incident again? As criminal police, the police officers of the Investigation Division 1 do not believe in any coincidences, but there are always one or two freaks in the world that will constantly refresh people's three views. For the police officers of the Investigation Division 1, one of the freaks is the detective Maori Kagoro, who has frequently encountered various homicides in recent months. As for the other freak, it is this group of elementary school students who always encounter incidents and can often put themselves in a life-threatening situation. These two strange flowers are simply the unsolved mysteries of the Metropolitan Police Department. If Maori Kagoro can still explain it a little, after all, detectives inevitably have to deal with various incidents and all kinds of people, then there is really no way to explain the juvenile suicide group. To say that they are the reincarnation of the god of plague is simply flattering them. They have not committed suicide for so long, they really have some luck. The discovery of the juvenile suicide group was like a signal. All the police officers at the scene were secretly alert, just waiting for the accident that was bound to happen. Chapter 290, The Clarion Call for Action. Surprising? In terms of spreading the virus, the suicide group never disappoints. 10 minutes after the game started, a staff member of Nichimi TV station hurriedly found Director Jinzi with a phone. "What's going on? Can't you see I'm busy?" Director Jinzi was very unhappy. He didn't even have time to deal with the police from the Metropolitan Police Department at the beginning of the game. He was busy here, so why were his subordinates so ignorant? Director Jinzi was more anxious than him. "You'd better listen to it. I can't make the decision on this matter. What can happen at this time?" Director Jinzi took the phone, glared at his subordinates, cleared his throat and said, "MOZ, this is Director Jinzi." Although Director Jinzi was very unhappy and impatient with his subordinates, his long-standing habit still made him polite when talking on the phone. But the next second, everyone in the director's car noticed that Jinzi, who had just looked unpredictable, changed his face in the next second and then began to sweat coldly on his head. "Sir, please don't make such jokes." Kaneko's words made the police in the director's car look serious. Due to their professional sensitivity, they even sensed the atmosphere of the case from the panic in Kaneko's words. Sato subconsciously looked at the picture on one of the screens. Is it really so effective? The fact is, it is really so effective. The call ended quickly, and the criminal had no intention of chatting with Director Kaneko on the phone. Facing the scrutinizing eyes of many police officers, Kaneko made an expression that was uglier than crying. "Officers, I want to report a case." Kaneko quickly explained the content of the call just now. Specifically, a criminal called him and asked him and the Nichimi TV station behind him for 50 million yen in cash. And before Kaneko raised any questions, the criminal had already proposed that he would let Kaneko see that what he said was true. He really had 56,000 hostages in his hands. Just as they were talking, a staff member of the stadium hurried over, found Officer Mejia, and handed the bullet wrapped in a handkerchief to Officer Mejia. "Where was this found?" Officer Mejia asked the staff with a serious expression. "It was around the football field. A football just rolled over and deflated. When we arrived, a teenager dug it out of the field." When Officer Mejia heard the staff talking about the teenager, his eyes subconsciously jumped, and then he saw Conan, who was laughing at him not far away. Conan was followed by Aihura. "Hey, are you the only two who came this time?" It's a very mature method. Sato, who came out of the director's car, saw this scene and subconsciously teased Conan. Then Conan looked behind him strangely. No, when he left the stands just now, the beige trio had clearly followed. Why did they suddenly disappear? Then he saw Toyama Tobi standing at the door of the director's car, smiling and looking at him. He could tell from Toyama Tobi's mouth shape that Toyama Tobi said "You're welcome." Conan was used to his friend's behavior of bullying the weak and fearing the strong, and Toyama Tobi left a lot of impressions on the beige trio. But there has never been anyone who is as easy to bully as Gaomyu. In fact, Toyama Tobi, who acts without taboos in front of children, just became the nemesis of the three white-giving people who are good at climbing up the ladder. On weekdays, they open their mouths to ask people to treat them to dinner, and close their mouths to ask about the case directly, because they are very sure that the people on the other side will not hurt them. But they are not so sure about Toyama Tobi. In fact, Toyama Tobi doesn't buy this at all. Before crossing over, they didn't spoil the naughty children of their relatives. After crossing over, let alone this group of little ghosts who he didn't like at all. Toyama Tobi may not treat them as cruelly as he treats adults, but he has no psychological burden to give them a little hardship every now and then. But now it seems that these three little ghosts are quite discerning. It's not surprising. If they didn't have discerning eyes, they wouldn't be so skilled in climbing up the ladder. As the first person to discover the shooting scene of the gangsters, Conan was taken into the director's car to inquire about the situation. Toyama Tobi and Hu and AI chatted in the shade of the trees outside the director's car. "Why are you here? Is it the organization's mission?" Hu and AI asked Toyama Tobi curiously. She was not curious about the organization's mission, but she was curious about why Toyama Tobi was here. It's not the organization's mission, but if you really want to be serious, the organization is indeed involved. Toyama Tobi gave an ambiguous answer. In fact, this matter was not in vain. The organization was going to enter dormant mode. At this time, even if Rum's coordination ability was good, it was inevitable that there would be some mistakes. There was no way. After all, it was such a big organization. If something unrelated to the organization suddenly happened in Bihar or even Tokyo at this time, it would be very beneficial to Rum if the official attention was attracted. "I saw a lot of policemen in the stadium. Could it be your handiwork?" Through Conan, Hu and AI already knew that Toyama Tobi had a very good relationship with the police force. This inevitably made Hu and AI feel a sense of gap. A rising star of a criminal group could actually get along with a large group of policemen. If you have a good relationship with one or two people, you can say that you are like-minded, but if you have a good relationship with a large group of policemen, it would be quite terrible. After all, the relationship between the policemen may not be so harmonious. Really, after all, I'm also an informant of the police, and a formal informant with a registered identity. Since a big mess is bound to happen here, I must remind them. After all, I still receive informant fees from the Metropolitan Police Department on time every month. The informant fees of the Metropolitan Police Department are not a small amount, especially for big spenders like Toyama Tobi who eat all the informant fees of Sato. But the rewards brought by Toyama Tobi are also quite generous. You see, the search section can not only follow the murderer's buttocks, but now it can also anticipate the enemy's moves. It's just useless. The call received by Director Kaneko seemed to be a signal, and the reports that followed were summarized in the director's car one after another. Some were poisoned, some were wired, some were shot, and some were stabbed to death by sharp weapons. In just a few dozen minutes, several murders occurred in various corners of the stadium. Some were bodies found by staff, and some were spectators who came out to the toilet and were startled by the blood flowing out of the cubicles. Some were simply bodies found by police officers in the stadium. If the bodies were not in the corners and the murderer had not chosen to act arrogantly in the stands, I'm afraid the entire national stadium would be in chaos by now. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291. The attack and defense are different. As more and more incidents occurred in the National Stadium, the Metropolitan Police Department was constantly adding police forces to the National Stadium. Under normal circumstances, if such a vicious incident occurred, the game would most likely be stopped on the spot. But Hiruda's threat still made Officer Medjia and his team hesitate. Hiruda said on the phone at the time that if Nichimi TV and the police dared to stop the game, he would indiscriminately shoot at the audience seats in the stadium. Otherwise, how could he say that he had 56,000 hostages in his hands? The situation, which was not complicated at first, immediately became difficult with the participation of Hiruda. If the criminal who took 56,000 spectators as hostages is not found, the subsequent investigation work of the 1st Investigation Division will be difficult. Therefore, Hiruda is always the first priority of the police investigation target. Hiruda, who was broadcasting the game in the stadium at this moment, was sweating profusely. His performance at this time was even worse than that of the director Kaneko. This is not surprising. Even though Director Kaneko is the highest person in charge of Nichimi TV in the National Stadium, he still cannot make the final decision on whether to pay the ransom. He also needs to report to his superiors. As for Hiruda, who called him to threaten him, there is no need for Director Kaneko to find him personally. That is the job of the police. Even if the criminal who called the threatening phone really went crazy and started shooting at the audience indiscriminately, it was the organizer of the event and the management of the stadium who came out to take the blame and apologize. This black pot could not be thrown on Kaneko's head. As a director of Nichimi TV, he was nervous about whether the broadcast of the game could proceed as usual and whether there would be serious mistakes in the content of the broadcast. Photographer Hiruda was different. As the planner and instigator of the kidnapping and ransom plan of this national stadium, he needed to be responsible for the entire action plan. As an old gangster in Bika Town, he also made a considerable number of action plans for this action. For example, what should Nichimi TV do if it directly calls the police after receiving a ransom call? According to the thinking of a criminal who is not afraid of wearing shoes when barefoot, Hiruda should have shot directly at the stands at this moment to warn Nichimi TV and the police not to play tricks. The large number of police officers who kept rushing to the stadium and even appeared in various stands without concealing it made Hiruda dare not act rashly. He was not stupid. With so many police officers on the scene, maybe the police would not be able to find him if he secretly fired 1 or 2 shots. But if the police really decided not to be threatened by him and risked the death of a few hostages to evacuate the other more than 50,000 spectators, Hiruda really had no good way to stop it. He could only watch helplessly as the chips in his hand were snatched away before they could even get on the table. When the police made up their minds to use the Russian rescue, the initiative between the police and the criminals would change 180 degrees. Criminal/hostage, don't come over. Shoot or not shoot, this is a very tangled problem for Hiruda. Toyama Tobi, who has always been considerate of others, decided to help Hiruda get rid of this tangled trouble. Outside the arena, with the continuous police reinforcement, Toyama Tobi has analyzed the dilemma that Hiruda is in. At present, Hiruda should make a decision quickly or immediately end the blackmail against Nichimi TV. Anyway, he just made a phone call. As long as he doesn't call again, he can leave safely after the game. This is a more prudent approach. As mentioned at the beginning, there is never a lack of such large-scale gatherings in Bika Town. If it doesn't work this time, he can find another opportunity next time. Or he can fight to the death and shoot directly at the stands to let the police and Nichimi TV see his determination. The next step is the psychological game between the two sides. It is obvious that once such a game begins, Garuda will definitely not have an advantage. You can't expect a gangster who only dares to ask for 50 million to have a good psychological quality. The police dared to come to support so openly, and the relevant criminal psychology experts must have analyzed Garuda, the gangster, thoroughly. Thanks to the unique advantages of Beaker Town, the development of criminal psychology in Tokyo is not ordinary. With so many samples to investigate, even simple statistics to find patterns can allow these experts to master good skills. If nothing unexpected happens, if the stalemate continues, Garuda will simply give up this action. Nichimi TV is so big that the monk can escape, but the temple cannot. Even if there is no football final, there will be concerts, baseball games, national celebrations and other scenes in the future, so there will be no worries about finding opportunities to attack. But what Toyama Tobi hates most is people who can't hold on to the end, so he quickly edited an email on his mobile phone and sent it to Kamakoto. Kamakoto received Toyama Tobi's order and contacted his subordinates. After being conveyed several times, the order finally reached Hiruda's accomplice in the stadium. After receiving the order from the organization, Garuda's accomplice immediately took off the headphones used to communicate with Hiruda, quietly left the audience and left early. After he left the stadium, he immediately dialed the number on the organization's email. After hearing the call was connected, he cursed into the phone without saying a word. After director Kaneko was scolded by him, Garuda's accomplice solemnly announced to Kaneko, 50 million ransom is not enough. Now the two brothers want 500 million. After making sure that director Kaneko heard his request clearly, Garuda's accomplice edited a text message to Hiruda. The general meaning was that the Metropolitan Police Department's cops and the people of Nichimi TV were not martial ethics. They had so many hostages in their hands, but they still sent reinforcement to the stadium with great fanfare. They must be taught a lesson. He has called Nichimi TV again and asked for 500 million yen as a ransom. This money is considered as a gift from him as an accomplice to Hiruda when they met. He suddenly remembered that he was boiling water at home before he left, and now he has to go back to deal with it. As for the ransom, he will not share it this time. We will see each other next time, if we are destined. Click, click. Hiruda squeezed the phone in his hand and it squeaked. The shell of the phone could not bear the strong external force. How could he not know that he was tricked by his accomplices? How dare they offer 500 million at this time? Isn't this forcing the police to take ruthless action against him? Realizing the danger, Hiruda was ready to flee immediately. He was not sure whether his accomplices had revealed his identity. Judging others by himself, Hiruda felt that he would definitely do the same. At that moment, he was ready to throw away the camera and leave this place of trouble. Just as he was about to throw away the camera and leave, a childish voice came from beside him. Hey, uncle, you are slacking off during work hours. It's not a good idea to do it so openly, right? Chapter 292, The End of the Arena. Is it really okay to let Edogawa go find the criminal? Heiberarei had just chatted with Toyama Tobi for a while when she noticed Conan excitedly ran out of the director's car and ran straight to the stadium. There is no need for reasoning. Anyone who knows Conan a little bit should know that Conan's behavior must have discovered the identity of the criminal. Heiberarei, I really didn't expect Conan to be so reckless. You said that when you were in the director's car, there were a lot of police around you, but you took one with you? He just went there alone and didn't know whether he was too confident or too confident in the murderer. As the saying goes, it is easy to change a country, but difficult to change one's nature. There is also a saying that a dog can't change its eating habits. These are actions. A person's disposition is difficult to change. Conan may be the protagonist of this world and the object of God's second love, but it is also quite difficult to change his nature. In the original work, Issei Makoto set himself on fire in front of him, which made Conan understand that if you use words to force a person into a dead end, then he is no different from a murderer. But if you want Conan to understand the danger of being alone, he probably won't have this cognition unless a few people around him die. Unlike the police, who always go out in groups, detectives always go alone. Successfully solving an incident means that the detective is very capable, and failure in being killed can only be regarded as a lack of skills. What's the point of worrying so much? Let go of the complex of helping others and respect the fate of others. This is the biggest compromise of an adult to reality. As Toyama Tobi said, he took out his mobile phone and sent an email to the intelligence team. After a few minutes, an anonymous email was sent to the mailbox of the senior executives of Nichimi TV. After many twists and turns, this email finally came to the hands of Inspector Megia. Just now, Conan ran away after seeing a certain surveillance picture, and the police in the director's car didn't react at first. Sato watched the scene that made Conan run away over and over again, and finally reacted for a long time. Conan was alone with the gangster. She now knows the identity of the gangster. At this time, Sato had only one idea, that she would teach Conan a lesson when she found him. I thought Conan was the one who was more worry-free among the group of Plague God Elementary School students. I didn't expect it. How did Titan Elementary School gather this group of crouching dragons and phoenixes? Exclamation mark. Just after Sato revealed the identity of the gangster and was about to call people to the stadium to arrest the target, she was suddenly stopped by the serious-looking Officer Megia. Wait, Sato, come and see this. Officer Megia immediately handed the list in his hand to Sato, and then held the walkie-talkie in his hand and began to command the plainclothes in the stadium. Sato looked at the list in his hand. There was not only a person's name on these lists, but also their seat numbers. Not only that, the relationship between these people and the deceased in the incident just now was also marked. Obviously, this is a list of suspects from the mastermind. How credible is a list of suspects from the mastermind? Officer Megia didn't know, but according to the feedback sent back by the police officers at the scene, the seat numbers and appearances of these people can match the list. Criminal police handle cases with evidence and clues. Even though Officer Megia didn't understand what the mastermind behind the scenes meant by sending the list to the police several times, the people on the list were indeed suspected of committing crimes. Since there were suspects, they couldn't just sit back and watch. It was unlikely to take action in the stadium during the game, and arresting these people at the same time could easily cause a stampede. But it was very feasible to keep an eye on the people on the list and arrest them separately after the game. The premise was that they needed to arrest the gangster who made the ransom call first. The amount of the ransom increased from 50 million to 500 million, and Officer Megia didn't know what happened. But according to the judgment of the criminal psychologist of the main agency, the gangster was likely to be stimulated by the police force that came to reinforce, causing his mental state to become unstable. The expert's advice was to find the gangster as soon as possible and arrest him immediately. Sato just discovered the identity of the criminal. That is, the criminal is likely to hold a hostage, Conan, at this moment. Sato, everything is up to you. You must hurry to arrest the criminal. We don't have much time left now. Officer Megia called a few capable detectives to accompany Sato to arrest the criminal. Sato nodded and hurried to the stadium. Not far away, Toyama Tobi noticed that Sato and his men left in a hurry and sent out an email that had been edited long ago. After a few minutes, the murderers in the stadium received a text message at the same time. The content of the text message is very simple, just telling the murderers that they have been targeted by the police. The text message burns after reading, as if it has never been sent out. When these murderers saw the text message for the first time, they subconsciously looked around, and then they noticed the plainclothes officers around them who didn't fit in. Panic was their first reaction, and people's reactions were different. Some murderers naturally retracted their gazes, as if the glimpse just now was just natural. This kind of murderer has better psychological quality. After all, there are still few people who can have such psychological qualities, which means that most murderers will still panic after noticing that they are being targeted by the police. Some subconsciously avoid the police's sight, just like when they were in school, when the teacher asked questions. When they were young, they didn't dare to look the teacher in the eye, for fear of being called up to ask questions. Others simply got up in a panic, ready to take advantage of the crowds in the stadium, hoping to get rid of the police who followed them through some clumsy anti-tracking methods. Some murderers are more impulsive, or they can kill people because of an email or a letter, and they are impulsive by nature. At the last moment of being on the verge of arrest, they are ready to give it a try. The stadium is not short of all kinds of hostages, and catching one at random can make the nearby detectives very afraid. So Officer Sato, who had just arrested Haruda with the cooperation of Conan, suddenly noticed the riot in the stands. It was not a riot in one place, but a riot that was blooming everywhere. The riot was also mixed with music and gunshots, which made Officer Sato's face change drastically. Something happened. So far, Sato has no idea what went wrong, so that so many suspects found themselves being followed by the police. But a big riot was inevitable, and Sato quickly handed the criminals over to his colleagues, and then took a few people to try to support them. Accompanied by short loud explosions, the large-scale riot at the scene instantly reached its peak. Chapter 293, An Accidental Marketing Genius. On January 1st, 20th, local time, a stampede occurred in Bikacho, Tokyo, Japan. According to Nichimi TV, the Emperor's Cup football final was held at the Bikacho National Stadium on that day. About 60,000 people gathered nearby, and most of the dead and injured were fans who came to watch the football game. Misfortunes often come with blessings, and blessings often come with misfortunes. Although the football match on New Year's Day was completely disrupted, Nichimi TV still reaped the biggest dividends from the National Stadium riot. It was just a device for broadcasting the game. What's the problem with changing the angle to broadcast the scene? Although Nichimi TV's broadcast was quickly stopped by the upper level, the footage that had been broadcast had already caused an uproar. Countless citizens called the Metropolitan Police Department to try to get an explanation. Under pressure from public opinion, the Metropolitan Police Department quickly gave the initial version of the explanation. The reason for the riot at the scene was that many murders occurred in the stadium, and the murderer was found by enthusiastic citizens after committing the crime, and the chase caused this appalling riot. The Metropolitan Police Department rushed to the scene as soon as the crime occurred, maintained order and arrested most of the murderers who attempted to escape. A small number of criminals who resisted stubbornly were shot dead on the spot by the police. Among them, Sato, who resisted with weapons, killed 2, and Takagi killed 1. The young couple killed a total of 3 heads, far ahead of other colleagues in the class. Yunshin Tobi is watching a press conference held by the Metropolitan Police Department. This press conference is broadcast live to the whole society. Its main function is to boost the reputation of the Metropolitan Police Department among the citizens. Although in this world full of detectives, the reputation of the Metropolitan Police Department is not very good. Who makes every detective who wants to get promoted have to step on the incompetent police to get promoted at the beginning. Of course, this is also inseparable from the propaganda of the Japanese media. After all, it is common for police to handle cases, but detectives solve cases before the police, which is a plot that the masses like to see. Real high-end lies are never fabricated out of thin air, just like the press conference of the Metropolitan Police Department. Can you say that they are all lies? None of them. They just concealed some key information. For example, these murderers did not gather together by chance, but someone gathered them together through some means. For another example, the police did not rush to the scene after receiving the report, but they had already deployed defenses at the scene from the beginning. These truths have no effect on most people. The boiling public opinion is just that everyone urgently needs an outlet. The Metropolitan Police Department has always been the scapegoat. When people need to take the blame, they naturally find it. But after a press conference held by the Metropolitan Police Department, everyone has a vague understanding of the truth of the incident. In addition, there were more than 50,000 people at the scene at that time, and it was difficult for the Metropolitan Police Department to shut everyone up with such a large number of people. They couldn't stop the gossip. As a result, the public security in Bihor town became visibly tense. When people were forced to go out, most of them came and went in a hurry, and they didn't stay on the street unless necessary. Even if they stayed at home, they didn't feel much safe. According to the gossip circulating in the National Stadium, the gangsters in the stadium were basically armed with a pistol, and some even had highly lethal gadgets such as remote-controlled bombs and grenades. It feels like the end of the world is coming, and then you suddenly find that your neighbors are frantically hoarding guns. Now the question comes to you. Do you say that you should hoard supplies now, or hoard some guns, and start a fierce arms race with your neighbors? As we all know, the genes of the Beaker people are naturally engraved with some unique gene fragments. Such gene fragments allow them to follow their feelings and easily buy various controlled items such as guns, cyanide, and explosives in a country with strict gun control. So the reason why Beaker Town guns are not rampant is because the Beaker people don't want to, not because they can't do it. The Beaker gun god favors every Beaker child, and whenever they need guns, they can get their own guns through their own efforts. The rampant here means that 70% of the passers-by walking on the street have guns, whether they carry them with them or keep them at home. And no matter where you live, you can hear the crackling sound of gunfire every now and then. By the way, isn't this month's turnover a little too high? Yuan Shenfei flipped through the financial report sent by Kei Zhencheng, and then fell into deep thought. Yuan Shenfei knew that the organization's arms business was good in the past. After all, the organization's business is mainly based on word of mouth. The guns sold are all new ones, and the prices are fair and never exorbitant. Even if you only buy a pistol, you can get a wholesale price discount. It can only be said that it is the best partner for home travel, murder, and arson. But this turnover suddenly soared to more than 10 times the original in 1 month, which is a bit too outrageous. Kei Yoshitsugu excitedly flattered Toyama Tobi. This is all thanks to you, big brother. After the National Stadium incident, everyone in Tokyo was in danger because some details were disclosed at the time, causing the citizens to feel extremely insecure. I did a quick statistics, and 85% of the people who bought guns here were citizens of Beaker Town. Another 8% were citizens from the neighborhoods around Beaker Town. The rest was the share of citizens in the rest of Tokyo. Toyama Tobi, who always prided himself on understanding the simple customs of Beaker Town, fell silent again after listening to Kei Yoshitsugu's introduction, then closed his eyes and whispered in his heart, "Thank you for the gift of Beaker firearms god. Hand over the profit that should be turned over to the organization this month and make them happy." By the way, since so many weapons were sold at once, the wind will definitely be very tight in the future. Let those people in the arms group strengthen the security measures and make sure that the clues will be cut off at any base that is discovered by the police. Tell them this is my order and they will know the consequences if they can't handle it. The people of Beaker Town are so tough, which can be regarded as a reminder to Yuan Shenfei. As the saying goes, when you have a sharp weapon, you will naturally want to kill. He doesn't believe that the Beaker people who usually kill and burn people will be wronged when they have a gun in their hands. If there is a disagreement, shooting at each other with guns may be the mainstream activity in Beaker Town for some time to come. Chapter 294 What makes you disrespect me so much? The large-scale dungeon event, Free Beaker Town, is officially launched. As expected by Toyama Tobi, the restless Beaker people showed amazing bravery after getting guns in their hands. My boss took my credit while I was working, so I shot him. My boss sent employees out to work and then ran home secretly, so I shot him. I wanted to resign, but was threatened by my boss, so I shot him. Anyway, in just half a month, the presidents of the entire Tokyo suffered a lot. Every now and then, I could see the tragic death of my colleagues in the newspaper, which made all the presidents start to be considerate of their employees. It's my fault for yelling at you that morning. I was a little excited. Don't take it to heart, Nakamura-kun did a great job. I have submitted your promotion report to the director. I believe you will soon become a pillar of the company. Let's not contact each other again. Your husband's eyes are not right when he looks at me. Such conversations often appear in offices, company buildings, and subordinates' bedrooms throughout Tokyo. The entire Beaker Town is full of vitality. Similarly, because of the large-scale proliferation of guns, the entire Metropolitan Police Department and the police in various police stations in various regions have to work overtime. The upper echelons of the government are even more controlling the firearms of the Metropolitan Police Department. It is impossible for the criminals to have a Glock or a Sig Sauer in their hands and let the police use the New South small revolver to fight with them. That is not fighting. That is called sending death. It is understandable that the firepower of the police is occasionally not as strong as that of the criminals, but this time it is not as strong as that of the criminals. So who will fight for their lives next? Everyone can accept selling their lives. After all, it is this money and this benefit. But if it is to send death, then it can only be said that the price offered by the Metropolitan Police Department is not enough. So a vigorous big dress up operation was launched inside the Metropolitan Police Department. Life is a large scale crypt and gold mobile game. Good operation can't beat crypt and gold, but when everyone is crypt and gold, good operation will have the upper hand. So in this forced arms race between the criminals and the police, the restless criminal arrogance of the gun-wielding rice flour people was finally suppressed a little. When the Metropolitan Police Department had time, it also began to conduct in-depth investigations on the arms sellers on the black market. 3 underground black market arms sales bases of the arms group of the single organization were taken down, not to mention other arms sellers. After all, the Metropolitan Police Department and this group of underground black market arms sellers still have a little tacit understanding. On weekdays, arms sellers sell a small amount of guns and bombs, and as long as the matter is not a big deal, the Metropolitan Police Department will not investigate too deeply. The endless and innovative murders in Beaker Town can always tie up the police's energy. This time the organization took the initiative to break the rules of the arms dealers, and the organization got the sweetest bite of the huge cake. You are unhappy with me, right? If you are unhappy with me, go and park with Gin in real life. Yamamoto, you are a veteran in the organization. Why are you so stupid? You are taking my words for granted, right? Have I ever told you to strengthen the security of terminal sales and not let the police find you? In the abandoned factory building in Tokyo Bay, Toyama Tobi asked a middle-aged man tied to a chair in confusion. You said I was wrong, Lord Spiritus. Give me another chance. Give me another chance and I will definitely not make the same mistake again. There have never been any tough guys in the organization, especially when facing higher level cadres. Yuan Shinfei casually pulled over a chair and sat opposite the middle-aged man, looking at him in confusion. So, you obviously know that what you did is wrong, so why do you have to do it? You are a manager in charge of arms transactions, and strengthening the security of sales points is just a matter of an order. A phone call, an email, or even a text message will get things done for you. Why on earth do you disrespect me so much that you are not even willing to make a perfunctory phone call to me? Lord Spiritus, I'm really just bewildered and blinded by greed. I was really wrong this time. Please let me go for the sake of my 20 years of service to the organization. No. Just let me call Lord Rum. Lord Spiritus, please. I see. I didn't realize that you were a veteran of the organization. Yuan Shinfei suddenly realized, and then he sighed boringly. I really thought you had some extraordinary background or some plan. The result is like this? Toyama Tobi stood up and waved behind him. 2 official members dressed in black immediately stepped forward to untie the middle-aged man. Although the middle-aged man was untied, his expression did not ease at all, and even despair had begun to creep into his heart. Sure enough, after the middle-aged man was untied, his mouth was gagged and then forced into the gasoline barrel next to him. Then a bucket of brand new cement pillar was poured. Toyama Tobi never looked behind him again and walked out of the abandoned factory with brisk steps. The enthusiastic citizen Toyama Tobi once again made his own contribution to Tokyo's land reclamation project. Yoshitsugu followed Toyama Tobi closely. Brother Toyama, Yamamoto's wife and love may know some information about the organization. Do you want us to? Yoshitsugu's words stopped abruptly, but the meaning was already very clear. He is such a person, no matter how honest and submissive he looks on weekdays. But that was just Yoshitsugu's disguise. How could a person who could work at the level of a high-risk peripheral member of the organization for so many years be really an honest person? As the saying goes, it is better to harm the harmony of heaven than to harm the harmony of culture. Yoshitsugu is more accustomed to nipping danger in the bud. Look, you are anxious again. Toyama Tobi gave Yoshitsugu a reproachful look. His subordinate was good in every way, except that he was too petty. How could he do everything by himself in the organization? Everyone should be responsible for their own work with clear division of labor. What does Toyama Tobi's arms group do? They are responsible for sales, to generate income for the organization. They are the god of wealth of the entire organization. Does the job of cleaning up a manager's mess have to be done by the god of wealth himself? I have already informed Jin about the work of cutting off the sales base that was seized. You will send the information about Yamamoto to Vodka later. They will know how to deal with it. Toyama Tobi paused for a moment, then said, by the way, the funds allocated to the action team will increase by 10% in the next 3 months. Gin and Vodka will understand what I mean. After Toyama Tobi finished speaking, he just came to his beloved car, opened the door, sat in the driver's seat, waved to Kamakoto, and left in style. After seeing Toyama Tobi off, Kamakoto turned back into his original honest appearance, and walked back with a smile. When passing by a member of the organization, he smiled and instructed, after the matter is completely settled, find a way to secretly leak the news to a few other people, just as if it were a piece of gossip heard by chance. Don't make it too obvious. Chapter 295. The two people who picked up Vermouth at the airport had ulterior motives. Here we are. Toyama Tobi pointed at a second-hand store on the street and signaled to Sato and Takagi beside him. Yoshi, get ready. Sato waved excitedly to his subordinates, and several detectives from the Investigation Division 1 and members of the mobile team began to check their equipment and firearms. Finally, under the leadership of Sato, a group of wolf-like detectives and mobile team members successfully destroyed this underground arms den hidden in a remote street. This is the 6th time this month that Toyama Tobi has tipped off Sato and helped them destroy the underground arms sales den. High-end business wars often use the simplest methods. As the sales director of the organization, Toyama Tobi was very unkind to borrow the power of the Metropolitan Police Department to attack competitors. There is no way. Now everyone lacks a sense of security. It is the golden age of underground arms trading. As long as you kill a competitor, you can make a little more money. Driven by such huge profits, Toyama Tobi also began to work diligently. Yuan Shinfei believes that everyone is a businessman and a respectable person, so it is not advisable to grab territory with guns like a gangster. This is not elegant at all. But pretending to be a customer, to buy some small props for self-defense at critical moments and to increase confidence in daily life is very decent. Just because Yuan Shinfei is unfamiliar with the place after crossing over, he can find the organization's base by himself and even join it. Now it's like a piece of cake to find a few black market arms dealers' dens. Because of Yuan Shinfei's high-end business warfare methods, the black market arms dealers in the whole Bihua town are in a state of panic. Everyone in the industry is cursing at home. What else can they do if they don't curse at home? At most, they can do some business with regular customers now, and they dare not receive new customers at all. Otherwise, do you know which new customer is a living father who comes here specifically to fish for law enforcement? As for the organization's arms group, it has not been suspected, but a few days later, the sales points under the arms group were shut down by the Metropolitan Police Department. Although the gains of this operation are not as big as those of other sales points, Officer Sato can understand it. It can only be said that they were unlucky, but this operation did indeed seize several poorly maintained New South and several boxes of damp bullets. Rum was not only satisfied with the recent series of actions of Toyama Tobi, he was simply too satisfied. This is a high-end talent from Bika Town. Spiritus has studied the economics of crime. Thanks to the sharp increase in sales of the arms group, the financial situation, that should have been tense, because the organization entered a dormant period has also been greatly alleviated. This made Rum often sigh when he was alone, thinking that he had used people in the wrong place. If Spiritus had been used earlier, wouldn't the financial situation of the organization be better? Of course, it's not too late to use him now. Rum kept transferring the authority of the arms group to Toyama Tobi, as if the organization was going to add burdens to you. It can be said that Toyama Tobi has already mastered part of the financial power with the help of Rum, the two most important rights of the organization, financial power and personnel power. The reason why it is said is part, that is because the organization not only has arms business that is not visible to the light, but also some legitimate business that is in the open. These legitimate businesses have nothing to do with the organization, no matter who you look at them, but their chairman and some of the senior executives are basically members of the organization. It's just that operations need cycles. When the organization urgently needs money to deal with emergencies, in addition to letting Jin steal, rob, blackmail, and cheat, it can now let Toyama Tobi launch a wave of price cuts and promotions. Judging from the current severe security situation in Tokyo, if the organization really wants to launch such discounts and price cuts, the residents who come to buy weapons for self-defense will probably be like the old men and women who rush to the supermarket to buy discounted eggs. The people in line are estimated to be able to circle the Toto Tower 13 times. The benefits brought by Toyama Tobi are far more than these. As soon as the shooting and trampling incident at the National Stadium occurred, the mastermind behind it directly rose to the top priority of the Metropolitan Police Department's urgent target. But the police did not have any intelligence about the mastermind behind it, and all the clues were cut off, and there was no place to investigate. Photographer Hiruda was the worst one, because everyone else in the National Stadium had a mastermind behind them who controlled them. Only Hiruda, the only amateur among this group of trainees. Then the question is, will the police really believe that Hiruda, who played an important role in the arena incident, has nothing to do with the mastermind behind the scenes? They don't believe it, and there is no way to believe it. But the fact is that after a long and intensive interrogation, the detectives of the Metropolitan Police Department finally realized that Hiruda was really just an innocent shit-stirring stick. The main purpose of his existence is the same as the mop in the toilet, which is specially used to disgust people. Then the increasingly severe public safety situation made the Metropolitan Police Department temporarily unable to take care of the mastermind behind the scenes without any clues, and the Metropolitan Police Department began to worry about the increasing number of guns in Tokyo. At this time, the detectives of the Investigation Section 1 missed their past lives more than ever. In the past, there were only more murders, and there were detectives to help solve the cases. Now, the detectives will not take the lead when they face armed gangsters. It is very kind of the detectives to help pay attention to who has guns when they are working in the face of citizens who illegally possess guns but have not used them. The Metropolitan Police Department actually has no good way, apart from confiscating and educating people at their homes. After obtaining solid evidence, they can't even do much. Arrest people. How to arrest. Where to send them after arrest. Let's not talk about anything else. If everyone with a gun has to be arrested in Bika Town alone, Bika Town will have at least 1/3 fewer people. Let's not talk about whether there is room in the prison for this 1/3 of people. How terrible would it be for a city to lose 1/3 of its people all of a sudden? Therefore, the Metropolitan Police Department can also work hard to cut off the possibility of guns flowing into Tokyo from the source. The continuous bad situation has made the Metropolitan Police Department unable to take care of itself, but the organization's actions have slowed down. Since everyone's eyes are not on them, Rum has more time to let the organization enter the dormant period safely. Just as Rum was contentedly sorting out the dormant plan and progress of the organization's Tokyo part, he suddenly received a call from Vermouth. This Hollywood A-list movie star finally ended her Hollywood journey and prepared to return to Japan. No one knows the reason for her return to Japan. After all, she is a mystic who believes in a secret makes a woman woman. This sentence can be translated as a woman who speaks frankly and a woman who is soft and secretive. After receiving the call from Vermouth, Rum's one night turned, and he suddenly remembered the arrangement he originally wanted to make for Toyama Tobi. Chapter 296, a brand new version of vodka? The title of the previous chapter was too many. Rum's original idea of pairing Toyama Tobi and Vermouth might have been feasible at the time, but at the moment, it is obviously inappropriate. Toyama Tobi is currently a local lord who can stand on his own in Rum's faction, and his relationship with Jin's action team is not bad. Although everyone had some dirty things before, with Toyama Tobi's initiative and Jin's acquiescence, no one took the small episode to heart. In the organization, except for the stubborn members, everyone follows the principle that there are only eternal interests and no eternal enemies. Not to mention that Toyama Tobi and Jin are far from being enemies. Now Toyama Tobi has money and Jin has guns, and everyone has tacitly started a long honeymoon period. It can be said that Toyama Tobi, who became the head of the arms group, has truly made a leap in the organization. Although he still has a faint imprint of the Rum faction, he is already in a semi-independent state. The difference between Toyama Tobi and Binga and Kuroso is like the difference between a star under an agency and a star with his own independent studio and a stake in the agency. Both are stars and have a relationship with the agency, but the degree of freedom of both is completely different. Rum plans to let Vermouth and Toyama Tobi get to know each other. Looking at the severity of Toyama Tobi's recent illness, it is obvious that no one in the organization can change him. Since he can't change him, then let's not change him. Rum, who claims to have mastered the correct way to use Toyama Tobi, has other worries. That is Vermouth, who returned to Japan from the United States. There are only a few cadres in the organization who can directly contact the boss, Gin, Rum, and Vermouth. In Rum's opinion, Gin is actually the easiest one to deal with. What's the point of being able to fight? To get involved, you have to rely on power and background. Gin is at most a thug. No matter how good he is at fighting, he is still just a thug and can't threaten Rum's position in the organization at all. But Vermouth is different. He, Rum, joined the organization early, and Vermouth joined not too late. Rum, as the second in command of the organization, was trusted by the boss, and Vermouth was also the boss's favorite woman. The most important thing was that Rum was mainly responsible for the organization's intelligence work, and Vermouth's nickname was the Witch in Front, so she naturally had an unparalleled advantage in intelligence. Vermouth was also a mystic, the kind of tricky person who kept talking nonsense, and you had no idea what he was going to do. The two people's personalities overlapped so much that Rum naturally had to be on guard against Vermouth. Originally, Rum planned to use Yuan Shenfei as a nail and drive it into Vermouth's side. Once Vermouth had any bad ideas, he could also know it through Yuan Shenfei in the first place. But now Yuan Shenfei has become a big boss in the organization, and it is obviously unrealistic to send him out as a nail. Even if Yuan Shenfei really agreed, Vermouth would not dare to accept it. Vermouth is not stupid. Then the original plan had to be slightly modified, and the original plan of laying a nail was changed to carrying Yuan Shenfei out to confront Vermouth. No matter whether the two could fight or not, at least Yuan Shenfei had to take up some of Vermouth's energy. According to Rum's order, Yuan Shenfei came to the airport to pick up Vermouth. When Vermouth arrived at the arrival hall, she saw the man from the organization who came to pick her up. There was no way that among the crowd in the arrival hall, there was only this man who was dressed in black from head to toe in the middle of summer. His face was full of people who were not easy to mess with. The most important thing was that this strong man was holding a sign in his hand, and the sign said Vermouth. The organization doesn't need to carry people now. Isn't it the cadre named Spiritus who came to pick her up? Vermouth, who was lightly dressed and disguised, did not go directly to the strong man who came to pick her up, but mixed in the crowd and approached the strong man unnoticed. When passing by, Vermouth touched the strong man from behind and then walked forward without looking back. The sturdy man immediately put away the sign in his hand and then followed behind Vermouth calmly. After being disguised, Vermouth looked like an ordinary middle-aged man. The two of them finally walked to the corner of the airport one after the other. Vermouth turned around and looked up and down at the sturdy man. "You are not Spiritus, right? Did he ask you to pick me up?" Vermouth asked the sturdy man calmly, but she was also ready for a fight. Although the probability is not high, what if someone is eyeing me in the United States and is ready to take me down in Japan? The sturdy man grinned and showed a simple smile, but this simple smile was full of ferocity. "It seems that you are Lord Vermouth. Please follow me. Brother Spiritus is waiting for you in the parking lot. By the way, I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Udo, and I'm a subordinate of Brother Spiritus. As a talent in intimidation and action, Udo's talent in business cannot be said to be non-existent, but it can only be said to be approximately zero. His old buddy Kei Yoshitsugu is now enjoying a second spring in the arms division, and Toyama Tobi also asked Udo to try to join the daily management and operation of the arms division. As a result, he found that Udo is more suitable for doing things that don't require much brain power. Toyama Tobi simply transferred Udo back to his side and let him do some errands and miscellaneous work. Of course, if the arms division needs to carry out some passionate gunfights, Udo is also an indispensable fighting force for the arms division. Oh, another vodka? By the way, how are your driving skills? Vermouth looked at Enuma Naruto in front of him with interest, and a sense of deja vu in his heart became stronger and stronger. Well, I think my driving skills are pretty good, but I can't swear when my brother is in the car, which is a bit uncomfortable. But don't worry, there is a special driver to pick you up at the airport this time, so I shouldn't need to drive. Is that so? The last question. I just touched you, and you followed me. What would you do if I wasn't Vermouth? Enuma Naruto smiled silly. Don't worry, I have received professional training. If I find out that you are not Vermouth, I will teach you a profound lesson touching me when you are not the person I'm looking for. Isn't that looking for trouble? Can you go with me to see Brother Spiritus now? Enuma Naruto just felt that this old man had too many questions. He just came to pick up the plane. Why is this man talking so much nonsense? He was still waiting to take this person back to show his brother to see if this guy is Vermouth. If not, he should quickly get rid of this person so as not to make Brother Spiritus angry. Vermouth followed Enuma Naruto out, and she was a little confused at this time. I mean, when will Tokyo update its version? How can such a reckless member of the organization be reused now? Chapter 297. I have never seen such a scene. You need to get to know Tokyo again, Vermouth. After Enuma Naruto sent Vermouth to the business car, Vermouth did a big job of tearing the face off Toyama Tobi. After successfully scaring Enuma Naruto and the member of the organization who was driving, Vermouth determined that the quality of the grassroots members of the organization might have declined a little, but the quality of the carters was still good. Then Vermouth got the arrogant declaration from Toyama Tobi. Sir, times have changed. The middle-aged man's three-piece suit was taken off by Vermouth in the car, revealing the black tights inside that could set off her figure very well. Hearing Toyama Tobi's words, she blinked. Oh, I think I know the city of Tokyo, for the time being. I wonder if you have any advice, Spiritus? Don't worry, just listen and take a look and you will know. Vermouth was confused. Before returning to Japan, she did not know some local information. This is not difficult to understand. Just like when you leave for a trip, the trip takes a little longer. Before going home, would you pay attention to the local news to see what's happening in your hometown recently? Obviously not. Probably the only thing left is the desire to go home. The same is true for Vermouth. For her, it is difficult for Japan, which is in the period of disappearing for 10, 20, or 30 years, to have any changes that will surprise her. Even if she really wants to know what's happening in Tokyo recently, wouldn't it be more convenient to contact Rum's intelligence team to provide her with information after arriving in Tokyo? Putting aside the question of whether there are changes in Tokyo, Vermouth is more curious about what Toyama Tobi said. She can understand it by looking at it, but she can listen to it. She is not a disabled person with impaired strength. Why did Spiritus deliberately emphasize the word listen? Toyama Tobi doesn't need to explain. When the business car drove into the city, everything was best reflected. As we all know, Japan is not a country that prohibits guns. It just strictly controls the number of guns that citizens can legally carry. The difficulty for ordinary citizens to obtain a gun license is very different from that of free America. In such a strict gun control environment, Vermouth vaguely heard a burst of crackling firecrackers. She immediately realized that this was not the sound of firecrackers at all, but a symbol of freedom. Freedom. This is freedom with the smell of gunpowder. As the traffic slowly passed by, Vermouth finally saw the scene of the gunfight through the privacy glass. The scene was cordoned off, and several serious police officers who were concentrating on their work contacted their colleagues with their pistols on their waists. On the ground was a body lying on the ground with bullet holes all over the body, bleeding profusely, and no breath at all. It was obvious that this person had just had a gunfight with the police. I, Vermouth, am knowledgeable and experienced. What scenes have I not seen in all these years? In Tokyo, I have never seen such a scene. Although there is a strange place called Beaker Town in the Tokyo of Conan's world, even the gangsters in Beaker Town have never been so arrogant. The arrogance of the Beaker Town gangsters is reflected in the fact that compared with their strong force, they are more willing to rely on their IQ to rub the police and detectives on the ground. This kind of street gunfight scene is rare. Everyone is a brain eater, and this kind of street gunfight looks so ungraceful and not at all elegant. But when the number of guns has increased to a certain extent, people who originally yearned for elegance gradually become less elegant. Just on the way back to the base from the airport, you can encounter a gunfight between the police and the gangsters. Vermouth doesn't think this is just an accident. If you add the fierce gunfights that the police encountered to eliminate black market arms dealers, the fierce gunfights that the criminal police encountered strong resistance when arresting criminals, and the patrol police found pedestrians with abnormal expressions on the street and asked them to check the sudden gunfights, Vermouth experienced at least 4 or 5 gunfights along the way. It should be said that the frequency of shooting is even higher than that of free America. Is Tokyo so free now? Facing Belmode's puzzled eyes, Yuan Shenfei touched his nose and said, I don't know if your luck is good or bad, but the frequency of gunfights is not so high on weekdays. You are really worthy of you, Belmode. Hearing Yuan Shenfei's words, Belmode was almost angry and laughed. Is this Spiritus Akada trained by the organization, or a civil servant who was laid off and re-employed by the government department? This ability to pass the blame is too instinctive, right? I just arrived in Tokyo and you gave me such a big black pot? Exclamation mark. You are not sent by the police to find someone to take the blame. Belmode, the thousand-faced witch, is not an ordinary person after all. She soon realized that during the time she was not in Japan, some incredible things might have happened in Tokyo. Compared with the huge city of Tokyo, Belmode is actually more curious about Spiritus, who came to pick her up at the airport. Belmode knows everything about Rum's little tricks, or this is Rum's conspiracy. Vermouth had no intention of replacing Rum. She was enjoying being a mystic now. Who would want to work so hard to be the second in command of the organization? Is it so easy to be the second in command? In the past, if faced with such a situation, Vermouth might have followed Rum's wishes and fought with Toyama Tobi. It was also a way to appease Rum's suspicious heart. But since she heard the code name Spiritus from Rum and looked up Toyama Tobi's information, Vermouth's heart was pounding. With Vermouth's position in the organization, she could access extremely high-level intelligence, and her intelligence authority was one of the highest in the organization. When Vermouth learned that Kudo Shinichi was killed by Jin in the United States, she wished she could return to Japan to kill Jin. But when she noticed that Kudo Yukiko was still having fun in the United States without any heartache, and was not as sad as her son's death, she realized that her own son might have escaped from Jin's hands. Then she learned that the Kudo residence was bombed into ruins and had to be rebuilt. After all, Vermouth is the organization's intelligence expert and naturally knows what role Toyama Tobi played in the bombing of the Kudo residence. Compared with Kudo Yukiko, Vermouth, who has been silently paying behind the scenes, is indeed more like Conan's biological mother, who can sit still when their own son's house was bombed to the sky. After the mission in the United States was completed, Vermouth immediately booked a ticket to return to Japan. Xiaolan and Shinichi, don't panic, your mother is here to rescue you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298. Don't panic, Kenna, your mother is here to rescue you. Until now, Vermouth realized that her goal of saving Xiaolan and Shinichi was somewhat difficult. If the danger came from the organization, Vermouth could still help block it. Our sister is the boss's favorite woman after all, and everyone should give her face. But now the danger clearly comes from the city of Tokyo. What can Vermouth do? Move with the two families of Maori and Kudo? Isn't America free? There are still NA people there. At least NA people are not so rampant on the streets of Japan. As for becoming bigger and stronger, there is no regional distinction. In the United States, you may be more unrestrained, rush in and rob, and leave after robbing. But in Bihar, belonging to the same Confucian cultural circle, everyone is more reserved. At least in Bihar, you have to carry a gun for $0 purchases. You have a Glock, I have a Beretta, and everyone has a bright future. Just when Vermouth didn't know what to think, Yuan Shenfei, who was sitting next to her, was a little puzzled. What is the woman thinking about here? According to Yuanshan FUI's only understanding of Vermouth, this is an old woman who is particularly good at taking advantage of her own advantages. That's right, it's an old woman. FBI Judy looked like this when she was little. Now Judy is almost a queen, but she still looks like this. How is Calvidus so obsessed with Vermouth? He is just a poor licker in the organization. He is always chasing after Vermouth, but he can never get what he wants. Does Vermouth know that Calvidus is chasing her so madly? She obviously knows. But based on the principle of not taking the initiative, not refusing, and not taking responsibility, Calvidus can only close the physical distance between the two parties. As for the others, forget it. Calvidus is not even as good as Gin. Yuanshan originally thought that Vermouth would shoot a sugar-coated bullet at him as soon as they met. He even arranged how to deal with the sugar-coated bullets. It's nothing more than eating the sugar coating and then selling the bullets for money. Now it seems that Vermouth is not even going to give him a sugar-coated bullet. Yuanshan very rarely felt a little emotional. We are all time travelers. Why don't you talk about sugar-coated bullets in other people's books? It's just that Kyuku feeds other sugar. When it comes to him, Toyama Tobi, let alone sugar, there is not even a bullet. Why is silence golden? The obvious difference in treatment is the most uncomfortable, but Belmode's performance also makes Toyama Tobi more cautious. How could he not see that Belmode was losing control? Although Belmode has been silent, he didn't watch Detective Conan for more than 20 years in his previous life for nothing. Belmode is a ruthless person. She is a woman who can change her appearance continuously in a short period of time and travel around the world. Once she really feels that her existence will threaten her angel, Toyama Tobi suddenly feels a little difficult to deal with when thinking of Belmode's tricky disguise. This kind of difficulty is not as difficult as the trouble on weekdays, but the kind of difficulty of facing a difficult game, the kind of excitement and unwillingness to admit defeat. Toyama Tobi's lead is not ordinary. He doesn't believe that Belmode will really run to Conan and Xiaolan to confront them. In the end, it was nothing more than fighting back against the enemy and piling up the earth to deal with the water. But Toyama Tobi was different from the others in the organization. It would be fine if he was not discovered, if he wanted to plot against him. But if he was discovered, Vermouth was certainly not afraid of death. But you have to worry about the safety of Conan, your own son, right? Don't mess around, or Conan will suffer. For a while, the two people sitting in the car were thinking about it, and of course it could be understood that they had their own ulterior motives. After sending Vermouth to her destination, Toyama Tobi left without any regrets. He didn't want to run to the organization's base at all to watch the two old foxes playing tricks on each other. With this time, it would be better to find some fun. Coincidentally, he now received two invitations to have fun, one from Xiaolan and the other from Kuroba Kato, who had disappeared for a long time. Toyama Tobi responded to Kuroba Kato first. He had to go to the office to drink with Brother Maori in the evening, so he naturally had time to chat with Xiaolan. Arriving at Kuroba's house, Toyama Tobi knocked on the door like a normal person, and then waited for the owner to open the door before entering the house. After all, this is the lair of two generations of phantom thieves. Toyama Tobi, an insider, always felt that it would be a bit of a spoiler if he didn't go through a window or pry open a door when he came here. After seeing Kuroba Kato, Toyama Tobi looked him up and down, and then said, "It seems that you have recovered well. Thanks to you." Kuroba Kato waved his hand and said listlessly, "I have just recovered a little, but now sometimes I'm awakened by nightmares in the middle of the night. I'm not very energetic in class every day." Ayoko thought I was sick, and was always worried. Toyama Tobi nodded after hearing this. It was a good thing that he could say it out. I was afraid that he would say I was fine when asked, nothing when asked, and I'd forgot everything when asked. If this is the case, Toyama Tobi would have to consider whether he should find a psychiatrist for Kuroba Kato. Apart from anything else, if a normal person had seen such a massacre in peacetime, it would be good to be able to recover so quickly. Although Kuroba Kato often deals with the police, he is a special thief. He may not have seen more corpses than ordinary detectives. The Suzuki family cruise ship incident can be regarded as adding some alternative life experiences to Kuroba Kato. Okay, let's talk about something else. I saw in your email that you want to ask me for help. Toyama Tobi took the initiative to change the subject. That's right. Actually, there is a situation that I want you to help me analyze. I don't know detectives very well, and I'm not very good at reasoning. Kuroba Kato took Toyama Tobi to the study. In order to get rid of the sequelae of the cruise ship incident, Kuroba Kato has recently often stayed in the chat room to kill time, that is, chatting online, and then watching the group members in the group chat, and the day passed quite quickly. However, recently he found a situation that he didn't quite understand. It happened that he heard that Toyama Tobi was an informant of the police. Thinking that he should have some achievements in reasoning, he asked him to talk together. There is no way. Kuroba Kato is actually a bit like Toyama Tobi. They both need to hide their identities from the people around them. Hiding their identities like this means that it is difficult for them to make friends. But what Kuroba Kato has to hide is the identity of Kato Kid. And Toyama Tobi has a lot more to hide. TSK, although I'm an informant of the Metropolitan Police Department, I have never tried reasoning, so I'm not sure about your question. Hey, maybe I can analyze it. Looking at the content of the chat room that Kuroba Kato showed him, Toyama Tobi showed an expression of I see. Oh, Ziohoi classmate, you are not relying on my reasoning ability, but my memory. Chapter 299 The old man deceived by the original keyboard warrior. You mean this person in the chat group has been dead for a while, and then his account was offline for a while, and now he is online again? Yes, it's this account called Deception Boy. Kuroba Kato pointed to a nickname in the chat room and said, as far as I know, the owner of this account should be Harufuden, a very famous magician. But more than half a month ago, he died on the stage due to an accident during a performance. Yuanshin Tobi could see that Kuroba Kato's respect for Harufuden was from the bottom of his heart. No wonder, with Harufuden's age and fame, he didn't need to risk his life to return to the stage to perform. With his fame and qualifications, he only needs to occasionally point fingers at new magicians in the media. At this age, he is still on the stage again, and he is performing the most dangerous escape magic. It can be imagined that this old man really loves the magician's stage. Such an old man who loves the stage like his life is naturally worthy of Kuroba Kato's respect. Yuan Shinfei quickly scrolled up the chat content while searching for the previous chat records of this chat group. He said to Kuroba Kato, if you want to investigate the recent abnormality of this account, you can't just look at the recent chat content. Since you know the identity of the owner of this account, the previous chat records are also very important. Look, it's almost here. Since the members of this chat room are all a group of magic enthusiasts, they obviously often discuss some famous magicians on weekdays. Among them, the conversation that Yuan Shinfei found was when the chat group discussed the famous magician Harufuden. The content of the conversation cannot be said to be extremely flattering Harufuden, but most of them also expressed their regret that Harufuden could no longer perform on stage. There is no way that Harufuden will not continue to perform on stage at this age, and no one can be too harsh on him. It is such an old man who cannot perform on stage, but he is praised by some people in the chat group to an unprecedented level. At this time in the Conan world, the internet was just beginning to flourish, and Kuroba Kato was not very familiar with the various strange phenomena on the internet. The few people in the chat group who are crazy about Chunjing Fengchuan are what everyone calls the archaeology school. The core tenet of the archaeology school is that modern people are definitely not as good as ancient people. In the magic industry, new magicians are not as good as the older generation of magicians. Among the older generation of magicians, those who can still perform are not as good as those who can't perform on stage, and those who can't perform on stage are not as good as those who are dead. Anyway, just by talking, this group of first generation keyboard warriors can roam in major chat rooms and madly output their shallow and idiotic remarks. If the parties involved have not responded, these views will ultimately be just the private fantasies of these keyboard warriors. I guess they never dreamed that the person they were talking about would be in the same chat group as them. Yuan Shinfei sighed regretfully. Grandpa Haru is a pure person. He doesn't know who these keyboard warriors are. He just thinks that these people are his most loyal fans. His fans are crazy about watching his performance again. He does intend to respond to these passionate fans. Yuan Shenfei continued to scroll down the chat history. Sure enough, not long after, the people in the chat group received the news that the magic master Haru Fuchun was going to make a comeback. Perhaps because there were too many internet outrageous comments, these people believed their opinions. They completely ignored the fact that the profession of magician also requires physical strength, especially escape magic. This kind of magic that requires a lot of physical strength and operation will make even a magician in his prime tired, let alone an old man who has been retired for a long time. The result of hastily launching a performance is insufficient preparation, and insufficient preparation is the most fatal factor in an escape magic performance. Keyboard warriors will not think of this. They will only think that Haru Fuchun's performance on stage is the best opportunity to prove their point of view. So the discussion in the group became more heated, and the praise for Haru Fuchun became more and more intense. It was a scene of flowers in full bloom and fire boiling oil. Until the news of Haru Fuchun's death in a performance accident came, everyone heard the bad news. It can be said that Haru Fuchun's death was bad news for their family, bad news for his true fans, and even worse news for these keyboard warriors. Because Haru Fuchun's death was like a big slap in their face. The old magic master used his death to tell these keyboard warriors, what you said is bullshit, not even as good as a fart. The keyboard warriors in the chat group were instantly broken, and then decisively became angry. Then these keyboard warriors quickly changed their positions, and began to ridicule Haru Fuchun. These people had no respect for a deceased artist who regarded the stage as his life, and they didn't even want to give the deceased the last dignity. They didn't notice at all that a name that had been dim for a long time in their chat group lit up again. What lit up this account was the anger of revenge. The account of the cheating boy started to speak again. That's right, this should be the first time this account has started to speak since the owner changed. Yuan Shenfei pointed at the cheating boy who reappeared in the chat group and said, although words can better hide the user's emotions, you can see that, whether it is the opinions he outputs, or the questions he raises, or even the arguments he has with other people in the group, he is expressing his position. I guess the current holder of this account is nothing more than Chunjing Fengchuan's family or his loyal fans. Considering that the probability of loyal fans getting the Chunjing Fengchuan chat account is not high, I guess the person using this account now should be his family. He should not have taken over this account recently. Perhaps he has been quietly lurking in this chat group and observing for a long time. But since he is Chunjing Master's family, why does he continue to use the identity of cheating boy to get along with everyone? If he says it directly, wouldn't it be more? Let me ask you, where is Master Chunjing from? Master is a Mihua person. That's right, it's normal for you, a person from Jiangushan, not to understand the Mihua folk customs. Jiangushan is home to many thieves, and Mihua is home to many murderers. These are indisputable facts. Such keyboard warriors cannot be frightened by your revealing your identity. If this deceiving boy really reveals his identity, he may be ridiculed. For a Mihua person, the best way to resolve a dispute is to resolve the person who triggered the dispute. Moreover, your group has provided him with a very good opportunity. Chapter 300, Yuan's unique method of diverting attention. When ordinary people encounter a keyboard warrior and are so angry that their faces turn red and their hearts turn murderous, what do they want to do most? I guess what they want to do most is to pull out the keyboard warrior through the network cable and beat him up. But for the Mihua people, when they encounter this situation, they will first think about whether fishing line, cyanide, and bullets can be sent to the keyboard warrior's home through the network cable. Unfortunately, this black technology that everyone in Mihua is looking forward to has not been developed yet. So the people in the chat group provided another possibility for the current cheating boy in the group. The first offline group activity of the Magic Lovers Alliance chat group has begun. Magic lovers themselves are not a popular circle, and the probability of meeting like-minded people in daily life is not high. Everyone can be said to be like-minded people. Since the chat group owner provides a platform for meeting, the active members in the group will naturally participate enthusiastically. Coincidentally, those keyboard warriors are also among the people who signed up enthusiastically. I see that your gathering place is still in a villa in the mountains. To be honest, this place is really the favorite place of the Mika people. Not only is it far away from the city, but there are not many people going there at ordinary times. This is simply a unique place tailor-made for criminal behavior. Although the Mecha people are not very picky about the place when they kill people, some remote places that are easy to be used as blizzard villas are also favored by the majority of Mecha murderers. It can be said that Blizzard Villa is a comfort zone of Mecha murderers. Generally, everyone kills for the first time, and few people like to challenge their comfort zone for the first time. After all, it is better to be safe when doing things for the first time. The more Kuroba Kato listened, the more outrageous it seemed to him. In the past, he didn't think there was anything wrong with the various murders that happened in Mecha Town on the news. But now, after hearing what Toyama Tobi said, it seems that he is very lucky to live in Jiangoshan. You guys from Bika are really. Hey, don't take me in. I'm not from Bika. Toyama Tobi was not interested in Kuroba Kato's classification. He was at most a person who made a living in Bika Town. How could he be easily classified as a Bika person when he didn't kill his boss or the president? He slandered me. He slandered me. Anyway, I think there's something wrong with this cheating boy. If you really want to stop it, either find out the real identity of the account user before the party starts, or you have to be careful during the party so as not to get yourself involved when you fail to save people. Toyama Tobi reminded Kuroba Kato for the sake of their friendship, but their friendship ended there. Kuroba Kato's current weight and friendship were not worth Toyama Tobi's direct disclosure of the cheating boy's current identity. Although he did know the name of the person who used the cheating boy account. After leaving the Kuroba residence, Toyama Tobi came to the Maori Detective Agency. After saying hello to Conan, who was writing an extracurricular exercise book, Toyama Tobi and Maori Kagoro began to drink at home. Under normal circumstances, Toyama Tobi and Maori Kagoro would not drink heavily at home. Even after knowing Toyama Tobi, the two would choose to go out when they wanted to drink. It was really not appropriate for a high school girl and a primary school student at home to get drunk all day in front of them. But considering the current security situation in Bihua Town, both of them felt that it was not safe to drink outside. The most important thing is that alcohol does interfere with people's ability to act. If they really encounter any dangerous situation, Maori is afraid that he will shoot and kill people, but he is also afraid that he will not be able to kill them. Since he is so entangled, he simply gave up going out and had a few drinks at home. That's right, Maori Kagoro now carries a gun when he goes out. This gun was sent by Toyama Tobi. Not only Maori Kagoro, but also Kisaki Eri was given a Sig-Sauer gun by Toyama Tobi. The reason is very simple. They can use guns, but they can't live without them. Especially at present, the Metropolitan Police Department's attitude towards the public's possession of guns is quite ambiguous, and the government will not investigate if the people don't report it. Under the law, we can't just let the criminals carry guns and commit crimes without giving the people a chance to defend themselves, right? The main reason is that guns in Tokyo suddenly flooded, and the government had no chance to stop this phenomenon. When they reacted and wanted to use tough measures to confiscate these guns, they found that it was too late. The situation of the flood of guns can only be managed slowly, first cutting off the inflow of black market guns from the source. Then, after killing a group of gun-holding gangsters and slowly improving the security situation in the Tokyo area, we can consider confiscating illegal guns from the people. This kind of work is destined to be calculated in years, not to mention that they can't even do the first step. The gun-selling dens that they destroyed were always small black market dealers. The real black market arms giants did not suffer any losses at all. Guns were still sold, and bullets were still delivered. Toyama Tobi did not think that they could eliminate illegal guns in the area in a short period of time. Maori Kagoro and Kisaki Eri did not say anything about the pistols sent by Toyama Tobi. First of all, they knew that Toyama Tobi was an informant of the Metropolitan Police Department, so it was easy to get a few guns. Secondly, everyone knew what was good and what was bad. In this day and age, if you don't have a decent gun, you will feel uneasy when you go out. Besides, it was up to them to decide whether to use the guns and when to use them. They accepted Toyama Tobi's kindness. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, Maori Kagoro told Toyama Tobi his request. Xiaolin was going to attend an offline party in an online chat room with her bestie Sonoko. In the past, they would just go. Maori Kagoro knew his daughter's fighting ability very well and had nothing to worry about. But now it is different. In the environment of rampant guns, Maoli is very wary of such gatherings of strangers. He originally planned to accompany his 2 children to the party, but the commission in his hand has reached a critical moment and he can't get away for the time being. In desperation, he can only ask Toyama Tobi to follow the 2 female high school students and pay attention to their personal safety. Maoli is quite confident about Toyama Tobi. The 2 are half-brothers who almost became sworn brothers. The guns he and his wife had were sent by Toyama Tobi. It goes without saying that Toyama Tobi must have a self-defense weapon in his hand. In addition, he also knows Toyama Tobi's fighting power. Maoli is more confident in handing his daughter to Toyama Tobi. Toyama Tobi agreed to this and immediately looked at Xiaolin. Speaking of which, Sonoko recovered quite quickly after that experience. To this, Maolilin smiled awkwardly. How to say it? Kuroba Kato's way of diverting his attention is to surf the internet and chat with people. Suzuki Sonoko's way of diverting attention is very popular. She usually diverts her attention by looking at handsome guys, and she doesn't even mind starting a vigorous online romance. You know what? This method is really effective when applied to Sonoko. At least from the perspective of her best friend Xiaolin, Sonoko is just like a normal person, yelling for handsome guys all day long. Xiaolin is also quite helpless about her hungry best friend. What can she do? You can only spoil your best friend yourself, and if she wants to see handsome guys, you can only accompany her. You can't contribute Kudo Shinichi. Even if you want to contribute, she hasn't found that bastard yet. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.